Stay forever.
Welcome to the Golden Breadbin Awards 1986. Brought to you by Zapped to the Past. With your hosts, Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings. Remember, we play these games so you don't have to.
Hello and welcome to this special episode of Zapped to the Past. I'm your host Adrian Mills and I'm joined as always by Graham Raddings. Why is this a special episode? Well, it's the end of the year. It's the end of 1986, so this is where we round everything up and talk about what was the best, what was the worst, what made us laugh, what made us cry, what made us angry, what made us anything, whether Nick Berry deserved to be in the charts, anything really, anything that comes to mind. But mostly we're going to give out a load of awards. So this is the Zapped to the Past 1986 Golden Breadbin Awards. Cue applause. You can insert applause there, yeah? You just do that and put some applause in. Yeah, shoot.
Just two or three people, like a golf clap. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need.
Hey.
So this is what we're doing. So this is the awards ceremony. So let's have a look. What did we think to 1986? Graham, what did you think to 1986? Now it's all done and dusted, and I'm going to amaze you with some stats after you've spoken, so you can.
Well, it was an intermediary year, so it was sandwiched in between 1985 and 1987, obviously. But in gaming terms, yeah. It was a game of highs and lows. 86, wasn't it? Those were the games. They were high and they were low, and if they were crap, generally speaking, they were really crap. It seemed like certain developers, certain teams were starting to find their feet a little, and so some games came out that were starting to just sort of grab the machine a little bit, start to flex some of the machine's capabilities and muscles a little bit. They were less reliant on arcade conversions, more original games coming forward. Even if they were a little bit arcade inspired, there were still some nice ideas. We had less, I think we had less Spectrum ports, but you didn't feel like it in the last few episodes, but I think we had less of those. More Commodore 64 games towards the end of 96, really starting to show off some graphic capabilities. Sacred Farm of Antiriad. What was the one with the spider robot in it? I can't remember the name of it. Iraq. There's quite a few of them, actually, that came out. In the last sort of few episodes, I think we've seen a technical turning of the corner, for want of a better description, or at least the beginnings of it. And then there's been some games in there thrown in, Mercenary, for example, and stuff like that probably we should have been all over, and everyone loves these games, and yet they just don't connect, or didn't seem to connect with, certainly with me, and I don't think some of them did with you. And then I think when games have been disappointing, and this is my takeaway from this year, actually, this is the year of the really disappointing licensed games, where so many games were licensed that had great opportunities, great content, great stories, great characters, great everything, and they just completely shit on it from a great height. So, just Knight Rider, V, they're just two that I can think of. But there's literally loads of them. And that was my greatest disappointment, is that if these things, and there's a question, I suppose, if these games hadn't have come out in 1986, but had have come out in 1987/88, would they have been better? Are the licensed games better? I mean, I suppose we'll find out in 1987. But my takeaway from 1986 was, I think budget games ruled the roost in some instances in 1986. I think they really showed the full-price games and gave them a run for the money, which meant that the full-price games either had to be really good or they were going down. And some of them were just so shockingly awful, the full-price games, that it defies even releasing it. Whereas others, I think if I think of the standout budget games in there, Thrust, for example, or Spellbound, there's just a number of others. I just think that some of those titles some of those titles were also a really good grounding for the coders and programmers and graphic guys that are really starting to show off and will become really, really, really potent in 1987. And of course, we even had our very first taste of Sensible as well. So that's my take. Okay, a real mixed bag of a year. Better than the previous year, which was a mixed bag, and when you put your hand in it, there was a mouse trap, and that mouse trap actually snapped your fingers off and then covered you in shit. At least there was a couple of good games in there. This year there was better games generally, but let down by some really poor licensing variations, some really great budget games, but also likewise some real stinkers. And I'm still on the fence about whether I like the idea of some of those really early 1984 games being budget released in 1986, because some of them just felt like cash grabs. But mixed bag of a year for me. What about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like I said, I'll go through some stats and some bits and bobs in a moment. But I think the thing that stood out for me, I would be slightly more, because where you're saying the lack of Spectrum ports, that's a good thing. I'm seeing a lack of full price 1983, 1984 cash grab American software that we saw so much of towards the arse end of 1985 and throughout 1985 stuff. And we rightly got very annoyed with so much of it. I didn't quite mind it when it was done at a budget price. It's like, these games are a couple of years old. If you want to give them a go, they're a couple of quid, $2.99, £2. I'm okay with that. Some of them are garbage, yes. Things like Neutral Zone and things like that spring to mind. But again, interesting historically as the first of the Carver games. So there's some bits and bobs that, I found myself kind of a bit more lenient with these things because they were appropriately priced. And I think, what you said, I think one of the things you said a few episodes back was the Sunday afternoon test. Would it pass a rainy Sunday afternoon if you got one of these games? And I think half of these cheaper ones probably would have, if you were bored, and they might give you a bit of enjoyment, half an hour, a couple of hours, something like that. And that's not so bad, I suppose. On the other hand, I think I'm in complete agreement with the dirge of licensed software that we have seen on so many of these games, and it's quite disheartening at times because you get games like Knight Rider, you get games like Miami Vice, you get versions of games like Dragon's Lair which are just either crap or weird or just utterly pointless. You get the weird scrolling in things like Marble Dullness. You get that sort of thing, and it's like this weird sort of space where like anything will do. Just release stuff, get stuff out. And we've seen that. And the number of games obviously that we've been looking at has gone up quite considerably. And so that's, part of that is just because just release stuff. Just get stuff released. And it's hard sometimes. I mean, it was good to have a magazine like Zzap or whoever to churn through some of this stuff. But even then, they weren't, our taste will never align properly, especially 35 years on. But even back then, our taste will never align. I was never a big Mercenary fan. No. Just wasn't for me. It wasn't for you. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for us. It's one of those things. So if you're expecting to see Mercenary in the best game category, you might as well turn off.
It's never going to happen.
It's just not going to be there.
And I can't tell you how disappointed I am.
And he can't allow it.
No.
And I can't allow him to walk away with that award.
No.
It would reek of in voting or whatever you would call it, rigged voting. And the winner goes to the mayor of Targ. No, we can't have that. So no. But it's been a weird year, like with odd things, like, and there's been on the flip side, there's been some really, I think, exceptional experimental stuff that's been coming through. So that's not always 100% worked and not always met our taste. So things like Mercenary, things like the Sentinel, things like Alter Ego, and things like that. And it's interesting as well to see how the year started with like the sort of quadruple whammy of, or the triple whammy, sorry, of the Lucasfilm games. So we had Cronus Rift, Ballblazer, and the Eidolon in quick succession. There's just this massive, high quality American software suddenly landing with a massive splash, and like, wow, okay, where's this kind of experimental weird stuff coming from?
Where did it go?
Sure. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it all went, I don't know, someone pressed a point and click adventure and lost it at Lucasfilm, I guess. But yeah, so there was that weird sort of period where they just kind of released these games and then it kind of all just disappeared. So it's been an interesting year. From my point of view, I think, from a historical point of view, I think 1986, maybe into most of 1987 was probably my peak Commodore 64 time when I was most sort of playing on it, back half 85 through 86 into 87. So this is where I was back then. I was heavily into the Commodore 64 and playing lots of the games, all the games. That was, a lot of my time was spent there. That will be drifting as we go into 1987. I know that for a fact. So as we get towards the end of 1987, I'm probably going to be coming across a lot of games that I have no idea about. And as we progress forward, and I'm quite actually looking forward to that, but I'll probably speak about that towards the end. So that's going to be quite interesting. But this is definitely when I was most into the games, and I knew a lot of them, although there were still some weird diamonds in the rough, like things like, what was the weird mole bear one? Captured.
Collapse. Oh, the one with the little stick things. Yeah, collapse. Yeah.
Yeah, the moles. Things like that. And so, and you're right with some of the budget stuff as well. But just before we crack into our first award, I'm going to give you some stats. So here's some stats I put together. So how many games do you think we looked at this year?
Well, I know how many it was, but
oh, you've ruined it.
Well, I knew before.
But right, well, it was 215. 215 games I've looked at this year.
Bloody feels like it as well.
So that is an average of 17.91 games per month.
Eek.
If you're interested. So let's call it 18. So an average of 18 games per month. Do you know what games got the highest score?
I don't actually.
That was 98% overall. With World Games, there was 5. There was World Games, Mercenary, Ball Blazer, Alter Ego, and Spin Dizzy.
What an odd collection.
Yeah. Do you know what got the lowest score? You probably do, actually.
Well, that was bloody Robo-Bollocks. You can't forget Robo-Bollocks. You can't forget that one.
Yeah, 3%. So there you go. There were 11 gold medals this year.
Oh, okay.
And 36 sizzlers.
Right. Okay. I thought there was more. I don't know why. I always thought there was more golds than that. That's crazy.
I checked through them all. 36 is what I found.
Wow.
And there were 14 games under 20%.
That's
only 14.
It's quite a lot.
It's not great, is it?
No.
That's the whole issues with just about. And the average review score, which is pretty good, is 63.7%. So there you go.
Okay.
So pretty average.
That sums up what I said about the year being kind of a sort of a year between the where it wasn't so good, and it's sort of that it's on the rise, I suppose, the average there.
Maybe. I should have done this last year. I might do it and put it somewhere. But just to sort of round up, so I was quite interested in seeing what games got a 99% for something. Okay. And so there was a few. Mercenary got 99% for last ability. Iridium.
If you say so.
Well, it's not for me to comment on. These are just stats.
Iridium
got it for presentation and graphics.
Okay.
Thrust and Spellbound both got it for value for money.
Makes sense.
Solo Flight Plus got it for presentation.
Okay.
Slamball got it for value for money.
Okay.
Tau Ceti presentation. Kickstart 2, the 1-8 version, got it for value for money. The biggest one, and this was the biggest average score across the board in this year, was World Games.
Right.
Got 99% in presentation, graphics, and sound.
Oh my gosh! How many categories are there in total? Is it 4 or 5?
6.
Oh, 6.
It didn't get anything. It didn't get anything less than 97%.
Jeez. Okay.
And Alicat and Boulder Dash Construction Kit both got 99% in presentation.
Okay.
I'm not surprised with Alicat. And I suppose, as you rightly pointed out in the Boulder Dash Construction Kit sort of review, is very. We both pointed out really, but the Mario Maker similarity and the clearness of the interface, I think, was quite good. So there you go. That's it. There's your stats. There's some intro. That's us. Shall we move on into our first award?
I think we should.
So let's get going, because our first award is for Best Visuals. All right. So just a little bit of a introduction how we've done this. Before we came to this, instead of like just having a massive long list and deciding here and now, because it was, had lots of and is and and I don't know, what should I put in? We did it beforehand. So we both made a list of 5 games, and then we combined them. So you won't always get 10 games because there's going to be some overlap. So these are basically our list to choose from. And we've got 7 titles in the mix for Best Visuals. So we picked all 5. We both picked our 5, and we both went for 3 of them. And those 3 were Robin of the Wood, Law of the West, and Sacred Armor of Antiriad. So by law of averages, they're our top 3. I mean, that's going to be it. I mean, the others, so we can just put them to one side. So the Eidolon, Hardball, Cauldron 2, Ace of Aces, excellent visuals, excellent graphics. We both appreciate them, and I appreciate your choices, and I'm sure you appreciate the Eidolon and Hardball. But I think we've both gone for those other 3. We're going to say that one of those 3 is going to be our best visuals because we both picked it. And it's going to be, the Law of the Jungle here. It's just, not to say Law of the West, but Law of the Jungle. It's if both got picked, then someone's, it's going to be one of them. So, Robin of the Wood, Law of the West, Sacred Armor of Antiriad. Do you have a particular one that you would drop down on immediately
Yes.
for the first award.
Yes, I do.
Is that one Sacred Armor of Antiriad?
Yes, it is.
Hey!
Is that the same for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, in all fairness, it was a late entry into the year, but both of us, it still is and stands out as one of the greatest graphical games on the C64. And so I think even though it's late into the year, right at the end of the year, actually, it came in and literally stomped its foot on everything else in terms of how it looks. And there's still, even though some of the graphics don't work quite as well as you think they should, when you get into the Citadel, as soon as you get into that Citadel and you see all the flames and you see all the sort of the caves and you're going around, it's a beautiful looking game. It is. It really is beautiful. Crafting pixel work in that. Beautiful animation on the main character, and it has those edges over Robin of the Wood. Robin of the Wood is beautiful in terms of its woodlands, but its sprites are good, but they're not as good as Sacred Armor sprites, and there's not a lot of them. Lore of the West is really nicely drawn game. It is, and there's and Hardball, even though it wasn't in the top 3, is also a very nice graphic game. Same person, isn't it?
And
Lore of the West has got a really great look. It's just a very similar look. It's kind of the same thing. It doesn't vary that much. Although what is there is great. So for me, it has to be Sacred Armor in the top best visuals because it's what I remember about it.
Yes, I think you're right. I think for me, it's the... I didn't go with Cauldron 2. That was I don't think. But Sacred Armor for me, I think you're right. It is those visuals. We used them in demos. We loved them. That title screen is...
We did, yeah.
Great. It's very simple, just as in our Tyriad. It's a lovely title screen. From the presentation of the visuals, the sprites are well drawn. The multicolored sprites, the single color sprites are a bit... they're still well drawn and animated, but there's some, the trees are amazing, the backgrounds are amazing. As you said, as you get into the caves and the Citadel, it all looks great. And it's just a stunning looking game. And we both said it at the time, and returning to it, despite probably my reservations about some elements of the game, one of those reservations was not the visuals, because it looks amazing. And so I have no problem in calling that, because it's also the variety of it. I love Robin of the Wood. I think it's great looking. That's why I picked it. But I think Sacred Armor has a much more... There's much more variety there in the visuals. There's some lovely, woody stuff in Robin of the Wood, but it's the Sacred Armor just pips it, I think, for those kind of things. And Lore of the West is, single... Well, not a single screen because there's different backgrounds, but I the sprites are full of character and everything and the little things in the background, but it is that single screen, and I think you're right. I think there's more... It's just the variety and the constant high quality of those visuals in Sacred Armor that do it for me. So there we go. That's it, I think.
So the winner of the Best Visual Award.
I couldn't hear you there. Your mouth was moving. I was like, I thought you'd gone...
I actually said the name of the game wrong as well, so that's good that you didn't hear that. Anyway, the winner of the Best Visual Award for 1986 is the Sacred Armor of Antiriad.
And rightly so, I think, yeah.
Okay.
well done, Palace. Well done.
Well done, Palace. You did good. Golf clap.
You did.
Golf clap.
Okay, so there we go. That's our first award out of the way. That is the best visuals, and that is the Sacred Armor of Antiriad. Well done. Well done. Let's move swiftly along then to our next award. So our next award is going to be Best Sound, not to be confused with Best Music. This is Best Sound, so Best Sound Effects, should we say. Best use of sound within a game in and of itself. So there's not many here. We've got 6. And that's because you only picked 3. What are we doing?
Because only 3 deserve to be picked, I'm afraid, out of that list.
Okay, right. Well, let's have a look. What have we got in our Best Sound nomination? We've got, up first, so this is for sound in the game, as I said. It's not music, it's sound effects. So we've got Desert Fox, Uridium, Cauldron 2, The Pumpkin Strikes Back, World Games, Leaderboard, and Ace of Aces. So there we go. That's our 6. We only had 2 that we concurred on here.
Okay.
So we're going to have to batter out a third. So those 2 were Cauldron 2 and World Games.
Okay, makes sense. So there's some good alternate choices in there. And this is actually quite difficult because some of these games have really interesting use of sound. So Desert Fox, for example, really great use of speech and clever use of sound in the game. Ace of Aces, really evocative sounds, really amazing aeroplane engine noises and all of that sort of stuff. Really captures that feel in a similar way to Desert Fox, but in a different vehicle, really. And Uridium, I'm not so sure about, because Uridium is just all sorts of random blippy bloppy noises, and that kind of is the same as there's a lot of games that sound like Iridium that aren't Iridium, but they have the same sort of sound effects. So Alley Cat, for example, is borderline the same sounds as Iridium. So I don't know about Iridium so much as a third place. But Leaderboard, I'm struggling to know what sound effects are actually in it other than...
See, Leaderboard for me, it was the... Leaderboard is a quiet game. I'm not going to lie about that. But for me, Leaderboard has few sound effects, but what sound effects there are perfect. That little as you go, as the ball drops in the hole, it's a perfect sound of a ball dropping in a golf hole, which to me is like, and I can, that one little thing, and also the golf swing, it's just perfect. You don't want much else in a golf game, maybe a golf clap, but that's why I put it in there. And the reason, when I went through all these thinking about best sound effects, it stuck in my head. So I'm quite prepared to accept it ain't going to probably be in the top 3. I get it. But I wanted it in there because for me, it stood out. It stood out at doing exactly what it did perfectly.
That's fair. It's the sounds of golf.
Sound of golf.
You know, if that's your bag.
Well, it's not my bag. It's just a really good sound effect.
Okay.
Which is...
okay.
It's what it is. It's just a weird thing. I just thought it was very good.
Yes. You know, I've got a lot of oral experience to compare that to. So I'll take your word for it. But I think
drop a golf ball in a plastic beaker.
But does that go over Ace of Aces or Desert Fox? No. And I think in actuality, I think it probably would top Iridium for me because Iridium is just lots of random blips and bloops, albeit
it's shoot 'em up noises, but they've done very well. And there's lots of other bits and bobs in there, but I did like that.
I think my feeling is, and I don't know if you agree, that it's a sort of it's the World War II sort of standoff, you know, tanks versus airplanes here. And I don't know. I think if I was genuinely honest, although I didn't really like the game that much, I think Desert Fox is better sound effects wise because of the speech that's in it, and because it really does. When you do that radio and you're trying to tune into different things and you get the little speech, I think that really adds to the game. Ace of Aces is missing that. If Ace of Aces had little bits of speech coming over your airplane and little, I don't even know how they speak, so I'm not going to imitate a World War II bomber pilot, but that kind of, that kind of speech.
Do it.
I wouldn't even know what they said. Bombs away, for want of a better description. But I think if Ace of Aces have had that little extra touch like that, I can't help but think that it probably would have topped Desert Fox because of the rest of it that really gelled. But I think I would say for a third place, I think Desert Fox, for me, out of those, I think Desert Fox is probably the one that's got, for me, even though I didn't like the game, has got the most memorable sounds in it, I think. Yes,
I mean, that's why I picked it. And I would argue that Desert Fox, without its sound effects, wouldn't work.
It wouldn't.
So the sound effects are kind of, what they did with Scarabaeus last year, in a sense that they sort of make the game work. And also as well from a mechanical point of view, from a game mechanics, those sounds, the speech, they tell you where to go, what to do, who's coming up. They're part and parcel of it. Ace of Aces is a very good oral soundscape, should we say, but it's plain noises. It's very
a drone, isn't it? It's kind of a drone.
It's evocative rather than integral, if that makes sense.
No, I agree.
We've had other games as well, like Ace and things like that, which have done sound effects, equally as well, I think. So, but to me, Desert Fox, which is why I picked it, would go in there, and so put it in, yeah? We do.
Yes, I think Desert Fox is in the top 3 now, which means we have our 3.
We do. So we have Cauldron 2, World Games, and Desert Fox as our top 3. Now, very different games.
Yes. You couldn't be more diverse, really, there.
No. So we've got a hardcore platformer that is rock hard. We've got a multi-event sports game and a World War II tank simulator, for want of a better word. Where do we start?
Well, I suppose the question to ask is your radar pointing at a specific game, or are you still is your compass spinning? So is your compass, are you navigating towards one game, or in particular, are you landing on one, or are you starting to think, actually, I can't decide? Because I've got 2 in mind, and one of which I feel is probably really deserving of that.
I think it's the bottom 2. For me, it's World Games or Desert Fox.
Right.
Is where I would drop.
Okay.
Cauldron 2 is good, and I like the sound effects. I picked them. But, the cackle of the witch and everything, and the bounce noise, and there are some very nice sound effects in there, but I don't know whether it's... To me, they're just good sound effects. There's lots of games with good sound effects, and I know that's what we're doing, but they didn't sort of, to me, add that much to the game itself.
Really? That surprises me with Cauldron 2.
Yeah, whereas I'd say both with World Games and Desert Fox, they do. There's but that's where I'm dropping. I don't know. What about you?
I think Cauldron 2's sound effects are completely tied into the thematic of that game. So in every possible way. However, if we're going for spot effects and the things that go with it, for me, really, I'd be lying if I didn't say World Games. Just even if, I mean, it depends really, because if you look, you can either have sound effects or you can look at the little intro tunes as part of the soundscape, and they're not music as such because we didn't fall into the best music. And when I think about that bagpipe sound.
If we're including those, then yeah.
Well, they have to be included because this is in the sound effects, and I think they're actually more sound effects because the music in that is really the themes for the countries.
Yes, and that's what I said: World Games or Desert Fox. So if I was sat considering this when I was thinking about best music. Do I consider World Games and the intro? But then I thought, actually, no, I'm not going to, and that's why I put World Games here. So
I think, I think out the two, I wouldn't selected Desert Fox over Cauldron 2. However, as a winner for me, or at the top of the tree, World Games would be my number one out of those three, without a doubt.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I can get behind that. I would. Just my argument for Desert Fox is the sound effects are more integral to the actual game itself, which is why I would drop for that.
Yeah, I can see it but I think if you took the speech out, there's not a lot there.
But the game wouldn't work.
Well, exactly, and that's my point. Whereas Cauldron 2's sound effects are they're a part of the thematic of the game. They're kind of, when you drop off things, you get the kind of, the almost cartoon-like sort of noise.
Yeah.
But that said, it doesn't matter what's came second. World Games, for me, again, it's memorable to me because of its sound. I remember the bagpipes when I first heard it. To this day, I remember it, and I think that is genuinely quite amazing.
Yes.
And I never really liked the epics themes, the country's anthems, particularly. But I don't remember it for those.
No, you don't, do you? You've always said you don't like them.
Because some of them are a bit discordant for me. But I don't have to worry about that because World Games, some of those introductory music is just really, really good. It's something they're really good at. And I'm surprised we didn't pick up on it actually for last year's best sound, because we could have probably, if that was the case, placed Summer Games in there. But you know what? I think World Games just has an edge over that in terms of those bits. I'm not saying anything else about the game, but for its sound, I think World Games. And I think maybe Desert Fox and Cauldron 2 were very equal place, second or third. It doesn't really matter which way round they went. I'm not fussed. They're all good sounds. I think Desert Fox's speech gives it an edge because it's nice to have a game with speech in, and it is really thematic to that, and it does lend a lot to it. Whereas Cauldron 2's are more arcade-based, explosion sounds, shooting sounds, and there's a lot more of them. It's horses for courses, really. But World Games, I think, tops that list anyway, so World Games is the one, I think.
I mean, it got 99%, didn't it? I've noticed that for sound, so,
Well, that's fair.
We're not saying something that's untoward, saying, you're going out on a limb and going, Robobolt.
Another late entry into the year, though, that storms in and goes whack. It's to be expected, because as we've noted, even in the podcast in episode 40, as we've noted, towards the end of the year, the technical muscles are starting to flex. The St. Gradama Vantari for graphics, World Games and such, and we'll see more of it. It's going to get more interesting, actually, for the more difficult categories, I think, that are coming after all of this. But certainly for that one, I think that's a very deserved best sound. So hats off to the 1,900 people that worked on that for Epic.
Yeah, so go on. So make your announcement for the best sound winner.
The best sound award for 1986 goes to World Games by Epic. Golf clap. Hey, well done, yay, well done.
There we go. That's 2 done. Wow, but that's the visuals and graphics and sound in it.
Yeah.
So we'll the hard ones are yet to come.
They're the Chaz and Dave of the Game Awards world.
They're the Nick and Twiggleberries.
Graphics and sound. There we go.
He likes graphics. I like sound.
Graphics, sound, graphics, sound, graphics.
Oh, we should have a Chaz and Dave award. Right, where are we? Okay, well, there you go then. Well done, World Games.
Well done.
For best sound.
You did good.
So there you go. That's that one out of the way. Let's move on to our next award. Right, and what is our next award? Well, our next one is, we should explain what this is. I did this when I put it out, when I finally got around to put it on the website, and someone went, what's Sunday Best Award mean? In fact, quite a few people did. I was like,
we probably should call it something, and in brackets, Sunday Best, maybe. No.
Yeah, so this is the worst game.
That's easier.
There you go. It's the worst game award, the lowest of the low. Sunday best basically means it's the game you bring out for Sunday best. You don't want to ruin the tape too much.
So you don't ever play it,
so you don't ever play it, ever. That's the whole point of the Sunday Best Award. But it is essentially the worst game. And so, strangely, there was such a plethora of choices for this that we had no commonality. But any of these could win. And we didn't even put one bite too deep in.
Oh, God, we didn't, did we?
No.
Oh, jeez.
So we've got 10 racing to the bottom here. Which one can get there first, we'll soon find out. So the games nominated in the Worst Game of the Year award, or the Sunday Best award, whatever you want to call it, are Gertie Goose, Sam Fox Strip Poker, Video Poker, Knight Rider, Pub Games, Booty, Groovy Garden, Jet Strike Mission, Wing Commander, and Robobolt. There we go. Now, I will say that all yours were on my list.
Okay.
When I was narrowing them out. I imagine most of mine were on your original list as well, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
But it was just coming down on what was the, what what made me sort of gag the most. So just where do we start here?
Well, I think start with, I suppose there's ways we could look at this. So, because Sunday Best is a definition that can go two ways, really, can't it? So it can either be games that were bought for you, that you had no control over, and that you treated as Sunday Best because you knew that they were crap when you got them. So you opened up a present from your auntie, and there's Wing Commander. This happened to me for real. You open up Wing Commander, and you're like, hey, thanks, I'll just put that in my drawer for best. Or it could be a game that you purchased yourself, not knowing that it was crap, discovering so upon its dataset goodness, unleashing itself on your eyes. And then after that, never loading it again and carefully putting it back in its inlay. And for some reason, it was always pristine.
I would ask why V is not in there then, if that's the case.
Well, I took V back when I bought it, so I can't...
That's how bad it was.
It wouldn't work. It didn't work. Well, it loaded once. True. It loaded once. I couldn't get it to load twice. Not that I wanted to, and I went and exchanged it. But even V at its worst has better elements than all of those games in that list.
It does.
And I think that's where the final sort of dagger of Sunday Best stabs is that some of these games actually angered me because they were so crap. And so I suppose that's where I'm going to start to sort of park my bike, as it were. The games in that list that actually enraged me. And the first one off that list for me is Knight Rider.
Yeah. You get no argument from me.
Because I think Knight Rider is such a great TV show. And you, as you pointed out when we talked about it, yes, it's cheesy. Yes, it's stupid and dumb. It's dumb 80s TV with a super-powered car and all the rest of it. But that was my go-to TV show, or one of them, along with Airwolf and loads of others around that time. And so,
Chips.
I forgot about Chips.
We used to play that. Me and my friend, just as an aside, we both had grifters. So we used to ride around the willows playing Chips.
What was the name of the two characters in that?
John and Ponch.
Oh, it's Ponch, that's it. Remember,
Eric Ponchuello. No,
Eric Estrada, isn't it, his name? Yeah,
Eric Estrada, it's Ponchuello and John.
Do you remember you bought that book at Christmas that was that Eric Estrada book? That said
you or Gary bought me for that it was my Eric Estrada scrapbook.
Yeah,
you bought me as a present.
Jogged around his house.
Yeah. When it rained outside, he made sure he did his jog for the day by just running around his house.
Running around his house is strange. So I think definitely Knight Rider goes in there because it actually took a big dump on my childhood memories. And I actually hadn't had any memories of it up until we replayed it for the podcast. It was so abhorrent to me that this was an ocean game as well. Now, I haven't actually looked up what happened there's a really good ocean book that's out there called A Life on the Ocean Waves or something like that. I think it's a Chris Wilkins book. It could be one of those books. I'm not sure, but it's out there. You could Google that. And I wonder if there's bound to be a section on Knight Rider in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. In the list you go, Knight Rider, you piece of crap.
Yeah.
So that's my first thing. So what about you? Have you got one that's just, you've enraged you and you think that you're going in no matter what? Well,
there's a couple here sort of thing. And I try to avoid the sort of, the Jet Strike Mission and the Robobolt, which are just jokes of games. I can't even acknowledge them. And I think you made the good point, actually, when we looked at them. Well, you made it about Robobolt, and you could easily have made this about Jet Strike Mission as well, as like, they're just a waste of page.
Yeah.
Zap, there could have been more utilization of the page that they were on.
Oh, totally.
Giving more space to another review or something, or another game or something like that. Because just like you said, I think what is it you said about Robo-Ball? It was just an excuse for them to get their baseball bats out and go full end of casino on it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, totally.
Which made which is a very very apposite description and works perfectly. And I think that's about right. Yeah. And it's why I can't bring myself to just. It's like Yeah,
because they're not best. They're not even deserving to be the best of anything. Even if it was the Sunday best, they don't deserve to be best of anything. They're shit. They're just rubbish.
They wouldn't. Because if someone had bought me that, I'd have thrown it at them like a shuriken.
Yeah, exactly. You'd never keep that. You'd throw it away rather than keep
exactly.
It would never become a best of anything. So I agree. I think
but Knight Rider would have to go in there. Yes. Similarly, in the same manner of thing, I can't imagine anyone buying me it, but I would probably go with Sam Fox Strip Poker.
Yes.
Because it's so grotty and it's so grubby
and pointless.
And it's so pointless and so blurry. So horrible on every level. It doesn't even play a good game of poker. It's nothing. It's just, and I've read around that people, I think the designer was just trying to make a poker game, and then Martech stuck the Sam Fox license on it.
That makes sense.
And it went from there. I'm not sure of the full history behind it, but it should never have been released. It's just, it's one of those early, and there's loads of them. If you search for C64 strip poker games, which I've had to do when I posted these things on Twitter, my Google feed for days afterwards, I had to search for loads of things to clean that up.
God knows what Amazon was recommending to you.
Oh, it was just a nightmare.
Still getting Elkie Brooks recommendations for me at the moment. I can't get rid of the damn thing.
That's because you keep searching for her.
I'm a fool if I thought it was over, that's for sure.
And that's in real life, listeners. He's been searching all his life for Elkie Brooks.
It's the title of my book.
So I don't know. We can put more in, but I would like to put Sam Fox Strip Poker in there because I just think it's...
Yeah, I think so.
It's a disgraceful release, just on every level.
It is. And it's always... The logic of it is always defeated by the fact that you could have gone out at that time and opened the copy of The Sun for free if you were feeling cheap, or just bought it for the 30 or 40 odd p and had a look in full colour. Or at least later in full colour, but you could have had a look. There's certainly better resolution than the game.
That's what I said. Even if it was black and white, it's not 320 by 240 resolution. No. It's a newspaper print.
And was the Sam Fox Strip Poker, did it have a rating? Is it my imagination? Did it have a rating? I just wondered if they'd...
I don't think it did, because I think we've got the first rated game comes up later, and I think it's that Dracula game, isn't it?
It could be. Anyway, yes, I think you're right to put it in there. I don't know if anyone would have ever bought me that, or I would have ever bought it, but it has a completely different justification for being in the Sunday Best, because it's just a crap version of what it is in every respect, with really blurry, crappy, pointless pictures of a page 3 model, who I suspect would have been horrified at those pictures, because they're all about their image. She's a model. No, and whether you like her or not, she's a professional model. Her entire career was built upon how she looked. So they presented her with this Martech going, check out, Sam, come here a minute, check out this picture of you. She'd be like, what the hell's that?
And also, as well, don't forget, I'm not sure of the sort of period. I could look at it if I really wanted to, but we've already, Sam Fox has been popping up quite a lot in our music sections.
She has.
So I'm imagining at this point she's jettisoned the page 3 career and is now trying to reinvent herself as a pop model. So this coming along as well is probably, I don't know whether she wanted it. I mean, it's cheap money, I guess, but it is literally just pictures from old Suns.
Yeah, and I suppose the one solace she might have taken from that is that nobody would have probably recognised her anyway, even though because at the beginning of the game she's disguised as some kind of secret agent. So it's not obvious that it's Sam Fox. It may not even be Sam Fox for all we know.
When I first started playing it, I thought I'd loaded up Hacker.
Honestly, it's so bad. And then we haven't got to the music for that, which is, mysteriously... Apparently, it actually is Robert under a pseudonym, so we hear. But whether it is or isn't, it's crap anyway. So yes,
John York.
John York, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, it's a bloody awful game. So yes, Sunday Best in the bin you go for the Sunday Best. And I suppose that leaves the elusive third spot. And there's some contenders in there.
There is.
Because Groovy Garden had that stupid logic of trying to keep the little blind guy alive for some reason. Booty, it was actually impossible because of its crazy key logic and the sprite shape and size and the awful music. Pub games, goodness me, and I think actually, if I was honest, I'm kind of leaning towards pub games a little bit because Gertie Goose was crap, but in the same realm as Robobolt was just arguably unfinished crap.
Yeah,
Wing Commander. I think it's a toss-up between Wing Commander and pub games for me because Wing Commander is just a flight simulator without the feeling of flight. So it's just a simulator of green. Nothing. It's a simulator of absolutely nothing. It simulates nothing.
and dark blue. There is dark blue as well.
There's no point in loading it in. You may as well just look at your screen, and because it simulates nothing that you can't simulate by not looking at it.
Yep.
So its pointlessness is its appeal to go in the list because it's just absolutely the most pointless flight simulator ever. But pub games, that's a compendium of, was it 8 games? All of them awful, without exception, with possibly the worst version of darts ever seen. So a part of me thinks that pub games, because of its audacity to try and push 8 games, or however many it was, as this kind of, come to the pub and play bar billiards, which you can't do. Oh, never mind, try dominoes, impossible. What about darts? The hand's too wobbly and it's blocky and it follows the dart, and you can't hit the dartboard because the wire on the dartboard's 3 inches thick. If you can't play the very games that they're trying to emulate, and I suppose that in that essence, pub games might have an edge, but Wing Commander doesn't emulate flight. So you've got a flightless Wing Commander and a gameless pub game. So I don't know. What about you? Which are you thinking those, or have you got a lot of it?
I thought about Wing Commander, and Wing Commander was in my list. But the reason I went
Commander.
that would be better, I guess. Although if you just see nothing but
Sam
green,
Fox's territory, right?
Although if you see nothing but green, you need to go to the doctor.
Your target reticule's gone blue. Go and see a doctor immediately. Just come up with a warning.
Abort.
It just says a lot that if you're playing Wing Commander, and if you know you tip back on your chair sometimes, as you used to do back then, you don't do it now. If you actually fell, that would be more like flight than that game has ever presented to you in the whole of its time. But I think I have to say, if you're leaning towards pub games, I think I'm kind of almost there with you as well. I won't take much of a shove.
No, well, I'll just shove you against the dartboard, and you will bounce off randomly and fall to the floor for 3 hours.
With your,
that terrible
with your
wallpaper.
hand following me
for no reason. Wing Commander was £2, and so I'll forgive a multitude of sins for a couple of quid. Pub games was a tenner.
Yeah.
And so for me, pub games is, and also as well, back in the 1980s, you would go to the pub on a Sunday, so this kind of fits in the theme as well. So I'm gonna, if you're in agreement, I'm not going to stop putting pub games in there.
Pub games,
I think
put it in.
Dreadful, and I think those 3 games, I'm going to struggle to pick the worst here because they're all terrible for different reasons.
They are terrible for different reasons, and I suppose it's how much you're angered by your childhood memory being shit on. How outraged you are at seeing something in blurro vision with a crappy poker game strapped to it, which is kind of designed to titillate, but actually doesn't. Or the compendium game that is actually no fun whatsoever. Blocky, nightmarish awfulness.
How do you get 8 games wrong?
Well, that is I think what's tipping it for me a little bit, is because they never learned anything from the first game being crap. They just carried that logic over. No, and how do you make table football less interesting? Well, just take all of the speed out of that, and it's so pedestrian. It's like it's absolutely terrible. I mean, they killed dominoes. Now dominoes is boring anyway, but it takes some doing to actually make it worse.
It does, and also they had a worse poker game than Sandbox Strip Poker.
They did actually. The poker's completely
and blackjack was nonsense. So for me, it's 8 Sunday bests because it's going to the pub. Going to the pub. You think, I don't need to go to the pub because I can play pub games, and it's just going to ruin your day.
Yeah,
it's just a horror show in a compendium. And again, like we've said, something comes in at the end of the year, and stomps its shitty boot on the shit of everything else.
Absolutely,
and goes, you think, literally, pub game goes, hold my beer. Look how crap I am. Literally,
it does. Yeah, it does. It does. And it's an insult. I mean, that came out that's reviewed in the same issue of Zzap as 180. It still makes me laugh to this day looking at when you compare the two. Because when we did it for the podcast, I played 180, then I played pub game straight afterwards. And it was like, and they were saying, 180 is quite good. The pub games, I wonder if the darts game was as good. No, it's not.
Why would you think at any point when you're making a darts game that you need to follow the dart to the floor when it bounces out the 3-inch thick wires?
Why? Did they never watch anyone playing darts for that game? Because they must go, right, how do you play darts? And then you put the dart in your hand and go, with your hand and you wobble it backwards and forwards. Like, no, just watch professional darts. That's the one thing they don't do. Anyway, no, I agree. I think if we're settling on that, I think out of the 3, I mean, don't get me wrong, that is a sea of shite. But pub games is 8 times the amount of shite from the others, and the others are bad enough. So Pub Games wins the Sunday Best Award for me, but what about for you?
No, I'm in agreement. Like I said, I mean, it out shit pokers Sam Fox strip poker and is a worse time than Knight Rider times 8.
And that's saying something because Knight Rider is absolutely pantaloon. So yes, there's a reason why if you go to a pub in the UK, you can't play any of the games in Pub Games anymore, with the exception maybe of darts, because they ruined it. They destroyed it.
Absolutely. There was a massive cull of table soccer. Dominoes were just burnt. There was the historical domino burning piles. It ruined record breakers for years.
It was the second harrowing of the pubs when they went through and anyone found with a bagatelle table was smashed over the head with it, and then they were run around the village.
What was that? That bagatelle game was in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's bar billiards essentially. It's the same thing.
We didn't actually speak about that, I don't think, because what was it?
Well, exactly, no one knows. No one knows.
You could aim, and you could blow on the balls because that's about power you could put into the shots.
For me, it looked like snooker played with egg cups. And I was like, what is on a board, the table the size of like a book? I'm like, what are you?
Yeah.
What are you?
No. This made us clear out all the games from the sideways egg.
It did. Cleared those out.
So when we played this, we realised that it was not a good idea because it's just bad, isn't it?
This is why the pub games now, when you go back to them, if they do have any, it's like massive Jenga, stuff like that, because they know the full. If anyone brings out a bagatelle board, they get rounded up, chased out of the village, and then the house gets burnt down. And they're putting stocks for everyone to throw gravy at. That's what we do in our village.
Absolutely. And then we stuff them with meat horse.
Take your bagatelle board and bugger off you. Get out. Stick clear of the moors.
So, if you'd like to announce our Sunday Best Worst Game of the Year there, Graham?
The winner of the Sunday Best, in brackets, Worst Game of the Year award goes to Pub Games by people that made Pub Games.
Alligator.
Alligator. Was it? Pub Games by Alligator. No applause for you.
Sorry.
You're not welcome in our pub ever again.
Oh, it's so bad.
I
think you're right, and because I played all of them, I played every single one of them. I know you dipped out, didn't you, midway through?
Yeah.
And I played all of them, and for me it was it was awful. It was a time I'm not getting back.
No, I said to you that I had wasted some of my life playing that darts game and watching it just follow the dart and then go back and I couldn't not hit the wire. I'm like, how? And it had that really weird way of throwing where if you had to sort of aim from like 3/4 of the way down the board to hit. No more now. I don't want to even go back and have flashbacks to that awfulness.
No more.
It's deserved of that award. You're in. You're done. Bloody Pub Games.
That's that. Right. So, Pub Games, well done. You're crap. Sums it up.
You suck. Get off.
Down in front.
Get off. You suck.
I was still booing you when I started playing Knight Rider. All right, we move on to our next award. Yes, let's. Okay, so our next award is indeed Best Music. So this one, I'm just going to slide off the beaten track here a little bit because we've done our normal thing, what we said we'd do previously. So we've got 7 titles here that were kind of from our top 5. But I do actually want to, because this was such a good year for music, a ridiculous thing. And I do just want to give a shout out to some of them that have not made the top list. All right. Mm-hmm. Because I think that there are a lot of tunes here that, and I'm going to guess that you probably had the same problem I did, was narrowing this down to 5.
To some extent, yeah, a little.
Yeah, it was rock hard. Because so I'll go with, I'll tell you what our games are first. So the best music is going to be from these 7. Okay, so we've got Zoids, Yi Kung Fu, Rambo, Spellbound, Green Beret, Warhawk, and Parallax. Okay, So I mean that's a pretty good list.
Very good.
Just shout outs here to Last V8, Commando, One Man and His Droid, Comic Bakery, Master of Magic, Electroglide, Thrust, International Karate, Mission AD, Trap, War. I did mention World Games, Sanction, and even the Sacred Armor of Antiriad. It's been a stunning year for music. It really has. And we said this at the end of last year that we were dreading this. And I think with good cause, because I just found this so hard. I was like, I don't want to boot that out. I don't want to kick that out. But you know what it is? It is what it is. We have to give the awards to something. And so we do actually have 3 that we've aligned on. And those 3 are Rambo, Green Beret, and Parallax.
Ooh, that's such a difficult trio to pick out of, isn't it?
So are you happy with those 3?
No, completely. Yep. I mean, it's been Martin Galway's year.
Yes, by some way.
You know, I mean, even if you just take those out and you added in any of the Ocean Loaders and all the stuff that's out there, those 3 games and the music that Martin Galway did for Rambo, Green Beret, and Parallax are genuinely astonishing. And that's not even taking into account something like Yao Kung Fu, which is also another one of his, which is very good. There's some amazing Rob Hubbard games, soundtracks out there, but Rob Hubbard's year comes a bit later. There's good stuff from Rob Hubbard in this year. There was good stuff from Rob Hubbard in the previous year, but this year belongs to Martin Galway for me. And so that's why the top 3 are all Martin Galway, because they just are incredible. They are genuinely incredible pieces of music in their own right. And as much as I really like Warhawk or Spellbound and some of the other Rob Hubbard ones, I do, they just aren't in the same league at this point as anything that Martin Galway is putting out. And those 3 that we've picked for the final, it's Hobson's choice between them, I have to say. But they are exceptional in anyone's book.
Yeah. I mean, I was strung out. The Hubbard stuff, it was either Zoids or Master of Magic for me.
Yes.
Possibly Thrust. Yeah. But again, you know, all those tunes which I gave mention to are all ace. You know, none of them are bad.
No, they're all really good.
They're all amazing pieces of music on the Commodore 64. And you know, last year we kind of had 3 standouts, didn't we? We had Hypersports, Crazy Comets, and Monty on the Run.
Yeah, we did.
We had those three standouts, which were kind of made our top 3 pretty easy last year.
It did. I think it was controversial, though, wasn't it? Because
it was. Our number 1 was controversial.
I think our listeners were leaning more towards the Monty on the Runs and stuff like that.
They were.
But you know
Crazy
what?
Comet.
We choose what we choose. That's the way it works.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, it's where we land. But I think beyond those 3, there wasn't much competition.
No,
is what I'm saying.
There wasn't. No, because you had things like.
Whereas this year's and what it's shown is that how these musicians have really got to grips with the sound chip, the SID chip.
Yeah,
and we know what's coming along. You know,
yes,
your Follins and your Drotels and good Lord, I dread to think.
I mean, we've only really just started to see the appearance of Dave Whittaker. Ben Dalglish doesn't really find his feet until 1987. He starts to really ramp it up a bit. So we'll. I mean,
Bombo could have been here as well. I suppose Bombo would have been worth a shout.
It could have, but it's in such tough competition at this stage. Yeah. So I think that some of these musicians, a bit like some of the game designers and the graphics guys, they're finding their feet better towards the end of the year, and the music starts to step in. I mean, Richard Joseph made an appearance in the list, although he's not obviously in the final 3. But there's some incredible music in some of those games. Some of it original, some of it not. All of it amazing C64 stuff. But you know, we've got to pick 3. We've got to pick a best music out of those. And this isn't an act of disrespect to any of the other composers and their music, but this is just our personal reflections on those. But that said, I know in my mind what's coming in 1987. I know, and it's going to be even more difficult next year. I mean, we thought it was hard to choose out of those, but Martin Galway made it a bit easier because the ones we've picked are just astonishing. They really are. Yeah,
we said it at the beginning of the year, didn't we, with Rambo? And we said it when we got to Green Beret, and then we said it again with Parallax.
Yeah, just incredible.
I said it with Yao Kung Fu, but we both like Yao Kung Fu, don't get me wrong, but I can see why. I think I don't know, but it is what it is. But those 3 are, astonishing. And I also, you know, I don't know, where do we start? Where would you want to pick?
This is really difficult because I honestly love all 3 of those for different reasons. And for all sorts of, so I mean, and I was trying to think of something an angle I could come at that would set maybe one would give one the edge over the other. So I thought, well, Rambo is a licensed game, and some of the music in the Rambo game is based on the Rambo film music, and that's by Jerry Goldsmith. So does that mean that Rambo isn't necessarily as good as the other 2? But then I think that loading music is completely Martin Galway, and it's genuinely ace. And the high score music in Rambo and all the other stuff.
And we gave last year to Hypersports, which was...
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's not about... I'm just thinking in comparison to these 3, not so much what would win. And then I thought this Green Beret. Green Beret is, again, based on an arcade. However, some of the music in the arcade is there present, but there's a lot more to this. And who can forget the loading music and the music in the game. That loading music is absolutely incredible for Green Beret. It's just mind-blowing how good it is. It's just mind-blowing. And then so I think, okay, well, Rambo's got really good loading music. Green Beret's got really good loading music. Parallax doesn't have, it has the Standard Ocean loading music, okay. But Parallax has got the Parallax music in, which is completely different to all the other two. And then I think, well, Parallax has also got that amazing high score music and that amazing in-game music. And it's just so I've been going round and round in circles thinking, well, I really like Rambo because of the high score music. And then I think, well, there's really great interstitial music in Rambo. Then I think, well, Green Beret's got that. Green Beret's got an amazing interstitial music and probably more of it. And I think, well, Parallax has got those amazing in-game music. And I'm like, So,
and the high score music.
It's a very, very difficult choice. And I suppose at a certain point, then it comes down to what kind of music that you like. Because it has to come down to that, because I can't base it on anything that's in those games, any parameters that come from those games, because they're all amazing games. They're all really good. Rambo, maybe not quite as good, but music-wise, amazing. So there's no, musical thing in the game itself that's going to set it apart. So I've got to think, well, which one do I actually like? Which is my go-to one? If someone gave me those three, which one am I going to listen to first? Which one resonated me at the time? Which one do I still have a lot of time for? And it actually came down to probably, for me, between Rambo and Green Beret. And I like Parallax a lot, and I like the high score music a lot. I like the high score music actually more than I like the opening theme. And Parallax it feels like an exploration of music. It's like a synthesizer. It's like listening to a Jean-Michel Jarre piece or something completely and utterly different. But I think of that, and then I think of that opening music, and I remember loading Green Beret on tape. And I remember the Green Beret drawing across the screen as the title music, that drone comes on, that do. Mm-hmm. And I remember it distinctly. But I also remembered Rambo for a similar reason, because of the Rambo. And so I think because it has that and Parallax doesn't have that, I'm landing on those two, but I'm still debating in my mind a little bit. So you might need to, do your little exploration while I'm still sort of debating. Because something you say might trigger something in mine as well.
Well, I don't know. I spent the afternoon listening to them. I listened to all the top 7 that we had. Went through them all just to get them right in my head and think right what I liked about them, what I didn't. And I went through them like you did. So I think I listened to Rambo first because it was first in the list. I just went down the list. So I listened to Rambo first. I was like, oh, this is amazing. There's so much good stuff here. But it's just incredible. And I flicked through all the tunes, and there was so many nice little bits and interstitial moments, and that loading music's great, and that the title screen is phenomenal, and the in-game music. I really like the in-game music in Rambo and the way it sort of ramps up.
Yeah.
That's really nice as well.
The interstitial music in Rambo is ace.
Yeah. Well, not the interstitial, the actual in-game.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's all of that stuff. And all of that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. So then I moved on to Green Beret, and I went, oh, this is ace as well. Like you said, that drone, I remember listening to this when I was younger. The title screen music is incredible. It has that wonderful sort of change of tone midway through, the sort of loading music, if you let it loop around at the end.
Yeah.
There's some really nice bits there. The in-game stuff is perfectly suitable for the Green Beret game, and it's really good. And the way he's taken the arcade in-game tune, the drum beat, and made it better, and done that. And then I moved on to Parallax. And this is where things are going to get a bit tricky between us, because Parallax just blows my mind. I don't know, there's nothing on the machine like it. And I think the Rambo and the Green Beret tunes, they're awesome, they're brilliant, but there's nothing like that Parallax title screen tune. And I remember first hearing it, obviously 35 years ago, sort of thing, and just thinking, what the hell is this? And someone put on our Facebook feed, because we were talking about it, and they said that Martin Galway said in an interview that he made it, he was really ill when he made it, and he just wanted to knock something out quickly, and he just wanted something really repetitive because that's how he was feeling, and just put this thing together. I don't know the veracity of this. Just somebody sort of put it on our Facebook page, and I was like, well, whatever he did, whatever illness he was going through, he was channeling something, because it's I don't even know how to describe that piece of music. It's 11 minutes of driving synth. Just I don't know. There's something about the Parallax main tune, and it's not even my type of music. Normally, what I like is not that sort of thing. I prefer other stuff, but it's just astonishing the way it all layers in, how it starts, and it starts so bleakly and, minimalist and just builds and builds and builds. And the other three are incredible. The other two are incredible, but there's times Parallax, I'm like, there's no way this is 3 channels. It just blows my mind. And so if I had to pick one out of Green Beret and Rambo, it would be Green Beret. I think because I prefer the 2 main themes in Green Beret to the 2 main themes in Rambo. So that's where I would fall on those two. But if I had to pick a winner in my heart of hearts, the one I like the most, it would be Parallax, because I can't. It stands aside from everything else and from anything else we've actually heard on the machine so far.
True. However, this isn't the best music made on the Commodore 64.
No.
This is the best music for a game. So this is the best music for a game. And I think, if anything, I mean, partly I agree with you. Parallax reminds me, it's very much in the Philip Glass.
It is, yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's very much a big Philip. So that's where that 11-minute, because Philip Glass tracks, if you think Koyaanisqatsi and all of that sort of stuff, that's where it's sort of headed. And then there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong, because I absolutely love Philip Glass stuff. So, and I suppose then you have to ask yourself, okay, does it suit Parallax the game? Is it a contingent part of what makes Parallax the game a Parallax game? And it isn't. But then the trouble is then you sort of say, well, that opening for Green Beret isn't really either, because it doesn't shout action-oriented, commando-based stabathon at you. It's this emotional journey it sort of takes you on. And so, I cycle between these 3 all the time, because all 3 are brilliant. And in actuality, part of me is actually thinking, I can't actually make a decision about these 3. So whether the best music just goes to Martin Galway for this particular, and we just give it for those 3 and say, you know what, I don't think I can make a genuinely honest decision. Those 3 pieces of music for Rambo, Green Beret, and Parallax are astonishing. Parallax is astonishing. All the in-game music for all of them. And so maybe the best music award just for those 3 goes to Martin Galway for any one of those 3, which I think, unless we have to actually decide. And I think if I had to put a pin in one and say, right, that one, I think because Rambo and Green Beret are essentially games about the military and the music doesn't necessarily fit, and I like Philip Glass, I think I would probably lean towards Parallax being my favourite of the 3. I just don't know if it's the best music for the game that it's in, but I think out of the 3, Parallax is a journey. It's a musical journey. I think you're right. So I don't know. We can either just say Parallax and that's the one. I think I'd still be in my mind be stabbing myself in the back going, you should have pick Rambo and you should have picked Green Beret, because I genuinely cannot.
If you want to give it to Galway, then I'm happy with that. I mean, because it's the Galway award this year, because you could throw in things like Comic Bakery, Ya Kung Fu. There's tons of it's just his body of work this year is astonishing.
Well, I think we're not setting a real precedent, because at the end of the day, all 3 of the top 3 are Martin Galway's music, and he really rules this year. So I think any one of those is deserving of the top award. And I think if I had to literally pick one, I'd say Parallax is my favourite out of the 3. Well, not favourite. My favourite is it's the one that leaps out at me for perhaps slightly more reasons than the other 2 out of those 3 amazing pieces of music and all the rest of it. And I do really, really, really like the high score music in Parallax, because I think it's ace. It's astonishing. So
it's what we use for our outro, isn't it?
It is, absolutely it is. Well, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that.
Well, we use so much Rambo and Green Beret in our interstitials throughout the podcast. We always have, because they're really good. But I think I like the music when you're actually walking around in Parallax, that echoey sound. So I think, if I was honest, I think if I have to be sat and be honest with myself, I think I would give the Best Music Award to Martin Galway and Parallax, I think, out of those 3. I know I've debated it and gone around in circles. I've been doing that for days, so it's nothing new.
I told you this was going to be hard.
But I think Martin Galway is a deserved winner whichever way it goes. But I think for me, Parallax wins the best music for me. But what about for you?
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you. Okay. I'm happy to drop on Parallax. I think I get you. I do understand what you're saying about like it. Is it right for the game? But it's this weird sci-fi-ish weirdness that does it's just brilliant. And
it's using the SID chip in ways that look at the other 214 games that are out there that we've played. And look at the majority of the way that the sound chip is used in those, and not all of it's good. I mean, don't get me wrong, we've obviously got some really good examples here, but look at the way that some of those games are utilising that sound chip, and just think of the sonic insults that we've had to deal with. And then Martin Galway comes along and goes, well, why don't you do it like this? And you just go, why aren't they all doing it like that? And that's because only he could make that.
Sonic insults. We've had to endure. And we've had to endure some sonic insults this year.
We have. So, do you know what? Parallax they're all 3 are amazing, but I'm going to settle on Parallax, because otherwise we could be here all week. But definitely Parallax.
Yeah. like
I would recommend going and listening to it.
Picking your favourite of your three children, isn't it?
It is. This year's just been his year, I mean, even Yao Kung Fu you could take one of those out potentially. Yao Kung Fu is a Jean-Michel Jarre piece, and there's nothing wrong with that necessarily because it is amazing. But I prefer Parallax because that's Martin Galway did that, and I really like that about it. And and I don't think he ever really got that good again.
That's why I would give it over Green Beret over Rambo.
Because I think as we roll into 1987, I think there's a turning point with Martin Galway where some of the music goes. We'll talk about it as we go through 1987. But some of it starts to become other musicians. Yeah, there's other musicians start to. Matt Gray comes in. There's quite a few others that will start to enter the fray. And as you say, we've still got to deal with the whole Ghouls and Ghosts and Tim Follin. And Tim Follin is something else. That's something else to contend with later. We'll deal with Tim Follin later. At the moment, Parallax.
Yeah, there we go. So, Graham, in your best musical voice, give us our number one best music.
The best music award for 1986 goes to Parallax by Martin Galway. Of course.
There we go. So that award done. So that's good. That's the best music. So Parallax, and then we're splitting hairs here. We're splitting a gnat's hair. Green Beret and Rambo.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
Literally, it's
a brilliant. You can't go wrong. Go listen to all three because it's a brilliant triumvirate.
Well, we know that Rambo eats Green Berets for breakfast, but Green Berets eat Rambos for breakfast and lunch. I don't know. They often eat each other for dinner. It seems it's a heavy meal, though. Heavy meal that.
It's like some robberous snake, something or other. All right, there we go.
The Golden Breadbin Awards 1986. Brought to you by Zap to the Past.
Okay, so our next award. God, this one. It is the craziest concept. So, otherwise known as what were they smoking? How many mushrooms had they taken? What was in, to quote Phil Collins, there was something in the air that night. When something was conceived, because these games, we stroke our head. They're not crap. Usually they are, but they're not the worst. We just can't get our head around them.
No.
And they befuddle us, and they make us, look at each other and blink a lot. And when we play them, we don't get so much angry as just slightly worried about changing things. In fact, there's actually one that should be in here, which I'm going to add in. But no, it's old, so I'm not going to. Anyway, right, our craziest concept. We have 6. We were very similar on a lot of these, but our 6 entries. We have Willow Pattern, of course. We have Blade Runner. We have The Comet. We have Tubular Bells. We have Room 10. And we have Fungus. So that's our 6. Not many in this one, only 6. Did we have anything that overran? Well, we did. We've got 4.
Okay.
So we've got 4 that we match on. But I'm going to sort of challenge you that I think one, we need to consider one. The ones we linked up on were Willow Pattern, The Comet, Tubular Bells, and Room 10.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, so that's those 4. I would, just before we get to those, I would argue that a game based on the soundtrack of a film would classify under any definition of a crazy concept, but I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I think in reality that was just a licensing swindle. It was just based on Blade Runner.
It was, but they didn't have replicants. They had Repli-Droids.
They did, and they changed some of the nomenclature. I get that, but at the end of the day, that game was basically Blade Runner. Whether they said it was based on the soundtrack or not, it didn't alter what the game was still looked and was based around, which was hunting robots, albeit that it was Repli-Droids. So I just thought it's not a crazy concept because Blade Runner's not a crazy concept, and whether it was based on the soundtrack is irrelevant. That was just the way that they kind of got round the licensing. Yeah. So that was my feeling on it. I thought there's worse concepts for games than that one, even though that is stupid.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I guess so. I just can't get my head around trying to pass this off as the game of the music of the film.
Oh yeah, and remember that because what we discovered was that they based the Highlander, the actual music for Highlander was based on the soundtrack or something, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh no, sorry, Queen's album was based on the soundtrack of the. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I just thought there was worse actually in the list. I thought Blade Runner is a really stupid idea, Or is it a clever idea to get round a licensing issue? I don't know. But either way, it didn't turn out very well for them. But there was far worse.
No, it didn't.
Far worse.
There were, and so that leaves us with these four, I guess, which are Willow Pattern, The Comet, Tubular Bells, and Room 10. So, do you want to go first?
Well, Willow Pattern is based on a plate. It's based on a pattern on a plate. And if that doesn't shout crazy concept at you, then I don't know what it is. Now, I suppose the argument is that it's based on the story of the pattern of the plate.
Which would be the argument against Blade Runner as well.
Yes, exactly
Just because it's based on a plate, it's what's on the plate.
Yes, it is. And there is a story to that pattern, whether you know.
As we discovered,
So, the comet is just... just stupid. That's because Halley's Comet was passing by, wasn't it? They thought they'd invent a game where you ended up making coffee or something random? It was really weird.
Yeah, and the screen would just fill up with bananas.
I think we described that one as the Homer's webpage game, really.
Yeah.
Tubular Bells it's just not a game. It's an interactive screensaver.
It's a win-out visualizer.
It is. And then Room 10, there's a special place in hell for Room 10 because that was a zero-gravity ping pong game set in... Zero-gravity ping pong is the stupidest idea of all time. It defeats the purpose of playing a game based on hitting a tiny ball across the table. To put it in slow-moving vector 3D, it's stupid. And it actually suddenly had a thought, and I don't know if this occurred to you at the same time, of many moons ago, of a game that we both, I can't remember if it was a student group or however it came to be, but it was a breakout game that was set on a cube.
Yes, I remember that.
Anyway, for reasons, things that shouldn't be combined is what I'm thinking. And we don't like things that shouldn't be combined. We talked about it with Amstrad. This is the Amstrad game, isn't it, really? They just combined things that shouldn't be. Zero gravity, table tennis, and 3D should never be put in the same space for any reason. And so I'm sat there thinking Willow Pattern is stupid, but it is based on a story the story's on a plate, but it's a story. It's like a fable, isn't it? So it's in the list, but does it belong at the top of that list? I know we said not on crockery, but all right. No, nobody should go. And there was another game, actually, I'm thinking that we haven't got in the list, I don't think, that was based on something else that was really stupid. Because I can't remember in the podcast now, we had, this one was based on a plate, and then we had something that was based on something even more stupid. Was it? I can't remember. It's not on the list, so it doesn't really matter. So I think the Comet is, the Comet is just stupid.
Yeah, it is really stupid.
Comet is really stupid.
See if I can find what the other one was.
Looking through all the games. I think it was after the episode where we talked about Willow Pattern. It might have been the episode after that, or the episode after that, the issue after that. Because I remember saying to you, so there's the game. First of all, we had a game based on crockery, and now we've got a game based on something else. And that I can't remember what it was now, but it was equally stupid. So, out of those, which one do you pick?
There you go.
I think Tubular Bells.
The Germ, was it?
No, although that is stupid. I don't know if Tubular Bells, it isn't really a game, I don't think. So I don't know. And it's not a crazy concept to have visualizations for music in of itself. The Comet is really stupid because it is a stupid game idea based around something that is completely intangible and ridiculous. But I think if you're going to look at a game that is actually ridiculous in every level, I think Room 10 out of those sort of sits in a special place because it's zero gravity 3D table tennis. And those things are just stupid. And whoever thought of that was obviously having some kind of brain wrong.
Well, it's the guy who did Tau Ceti. I can't remember. It's the guy. Well, he did the Spectrum version. He came up with the original Tau Ceti idea, sort of thing. But no. That doesn't. Just because you have a good idea doesn't. We don't let Sir Clive Sinclair off with the C5 because he came up with the Spectrum.
That's true.
You can have good ideas, but if you have a bad idea is still a bad idea. Just because it came from someone who had made something good.
Yes, that's very true.
The CD32, the Amiga CD32, was never a good idea.
No.
These things happen. So Willow Pattern, and also as well, Willow Pattern was just a rip-off of a previous game they'd made.
Yes, that's right, it was.
Just changed things. And Willow Pattern was stupid for many other reasons, but, basing it on crockery was whatever. But I think that not being able to get past guards because you'd used your one sword up was a bit ridiculous, but that's the game, I guess. The Comet, basing it on a comet that was passing by, but then having nothing to do with the comet. It wasn't anything to do with the comet.
Was it, was it?
It was just you're on a spaceship trying to fix stuff. What's that to do with the comet?
Oh, bad.
And the Tubular Bells, for me, is one of the perfect examples of, we could say, I mean, we didn't even mention fungus. I didn't put in fungus because fungus is just a left to right runner. So I thought it is weird. And there was obviously many, many mushrooms involved in the creation of that.
I don't doubt.
But Tubular Bells, I think, the dealer must have like seen them coming. You want to do what? Oh, we're gonna so a 1973 album. We're gonna do a version of it, and a not very good version of it on the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
And have lines moving around so you can watch it. Okay. So you're gonna give them the album? Nah. It's just gonna be great. And none of it was.
No.
So take this back, because this is pre-visualizing it. It's pre-Winamp, pre-Windows Media, and all those kind of things, which we take for granted now. Visualizers. I mean, obviously Minter had done them in some of his stuff.
Yeah.
But to actually try and charge a £10 for that I can't imagine. I'm surprised they would be able to see each other in the room. It must have been so full of smoke. And Room 10, as you have rightly said, I just don't understand. I don't. Why would you think? Oh yeah, it's Pong in 3D. We don't need Pong in 3D. No, we do. No, we do. We need it in 3D. And so, okay, so it's just gonna sort of tables? Well, we have that. It's called Ping Pong. It's Konami, the arcade game. No, this is floating bats in 3D. Is it fast? Well, it's got 7 speed levels in Italian. What?
It is difficult,
smoking?
Isn't it? You have to ask. Later on, we came across the game Fungus, Fergus, didn't we? What was it called? Not Fungus, Fergus. What was it called?
I didn't even put in its cleanup time.
God, this is tough, isn't it? Because all these games are really stupid. So
or Street Surfer. Don't forget Street Surfer. The eco skateboarding simulator.
Where do you go with these bloody awful things? Oh, this is tough. This is really tough.
If I had to pick out of these, I think Willow Pattern gets ejected because but we can argue the same thing for Blade Runner.
Yes,
that we can for Willow Pattern. Yeah. It may come from a plate, but the plate came from a story.
Yes.
So okay, fair enough. And so I would eject Willow Pattern and leave it with the other 3.
Yeah.
Are you all right with that?
Yes, I think so. I think we can take that out.
Of those 3, God knows, this is harder than the music.
It's really tough.
Where's Jack Charlton's match fishing when you need him?
Oh, you said we had standout crazy last time. This time they're kind of hiding in plain sight, these crazies.
A game about a comet that doesn't feature a comet. A game that's not a game. And a stupid interpretation of the first game.
Oh, this is like possibly... Why is it so difficult? Because all these games are just dog egg. Anyway,
yeah.
All right. My radar is still pointing at Room 10, I have to say. I can't get past Zero. See, I know it's programmed by the guy that did wonderful stuff later. That's all well and good, but you made zero gravity table tennis in 3D. Badly at that. Slowly. Slow moving, zero gravity table tennis, which sounded like air hockey.
Yeah. I don't understand it. I really don't.
It's not pleasing. It's not pleasing to the eye, to the ear, or to the control.
No, it's really not. Although he's not listed down on... Did he do it? Pretty sure he did. I don't know. Let me look for Room 10. I don't want to assign this to the wrong person.
No, make sure we got it right. We don't want to be... it may not thank us for it as well. And there's some games in the also ran category, nearly ran category, isn't there? That were just, awful pieces of nonsense as well, but probably not quite as nonsensy as that.
Well, it's by CRL. CRL did Tausetti.
It did?
And I'm sure I read it in the review on Zzap. It said it was him. So I'm happy to, give it to just ridiculousness. And I think it's topped off with 7 speeds that are measured on musical tempo.
Yes. I forgot about that. You could play the game Allegro if you like.
Adagio.
How does that work?
Presto. I don't know. What's it got to do with zero G table tennis?
God's sake. Oh, dear me. No.
Here we go. Are we settling on Room 10 then?
I think I have to settle on Room 10, yes. I think because it was so just awful. So yes, that's my I'm settling on that one. I'm going to have to settle on it. It's that one.
Okay, there we go then. So I agree. Room 10 is our craziest concept. So Graham, do you want to make that announcement?
The winner of the Craziest Concept Award for 1986 goes to Room 10.
I'm not clapping that.
No, because it's zero gravity, so it doesn't carry any sound.
I can't get my hands to move fast enough to make a clap noise.
I still can't think of what that game was that was based on something else. I mean, there's nearly runs in there. You know, Southern Belle could have made an appearance at its 1 frame per second crazy, and some others in there.
Yeah.
But making a train game isn't in of itself a crazy concept. That was just a crap attempt. So
yes, exactly. I can't remember what was in mine. Time Tunnel was in there as well. I had Super Bowl because I found the concept of making a game around one game. In 2 teams. Crazy. That's a crazy concept.
It's a little bit different. That's for sure.
And I also put in there Miami Dice. Because it's it's just, I just don't get it. But there you go. Anyway, crazy concept. Room 10. Don't know whether to say well done or not.
I think just, go off and, if you've really, go off and play zero gravity table tennis and tell me how wonderful it is. That's what. Do you see them playing it in the International Space Station? No. And there's a good reason for that, because it's really shit to play anything in zero gravity that involves a ball.
Yeah, the ball don't come down.
No, well, it won't. You could hit it in one direction forever, and it will never go any faster than the energy you apply to it. Bear in mind that you can only apply so much energy in zero gravity. So no, it's a physics nightmare. It's a physics nightmare. Again, it's reliant on gravity. The game's reliant on having gravity, because that's how the ball drops and bounces. That's the fundamental Newton's law. If ever there was a game reliant on physics, it's a game like table tennis, even in 3D. So to take the one thing it's based upon away, can you imagine if football, you took gravity away from football, you just kick a ball and you just go forever in one direction. Unless something stops it, it's going to just keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Headers would be hilarious. Jump up for a header, you just see footballers flying up into space. Like, oh, damn it, we've got to put heavier shoes on these footballers. I've told you, how many times have I told you? Lead football boots, for goodness sake. Oh, well, he's never coming down.
Even with lead, it's still not come down. There's no gravity to pull him down.
No, there wouldn't. He's just going to keep going forever, unless something pushes him down the other way. But anyway, let's not debate the physics crazy. One of the challenging things for these games in 1986 has been some of their physics interpretations. We've got golf games with random physics and table tennis with no physics, and we've had table tennis games with physics that didn't do physics very well. It's all very hit and miss, isn't it? So
yeah, there we go. That's the craziest concept. So should we move on to our next award?
I think we should.
Let's get into this then, because it's the biggie. It's the Biggie Smalls. It is the best game. So yes, it's the best game. So we did our picks beforehand, and we've come down on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nominations. So let's go through them. So we've got the Eidolon, Alter Ego, Leaderboard, Green Beret, Parallax, Druid, and World Games. So those were the ones that we nominated. What did we have? If you bear with me one moment, what did we have of the same? Well, we've only got 3.
Okay, that makes it a bit easier.
Yep. We've got Alter Ego, Leaderboard, and World Games.
Oh, that doesn't make it any easier.
well.
God,
that's what we've got.
That's really tough. Oh my God. Wow. I mean, it's impressive that there's 2 sports games in there. That's good. That's a good sign, because we've said over the period of the podcast, actually, that sometimes they've struggled with the sports games for different reasons. Sometimes they just haven't quite adhered to the rules, or the physics haven't been quite right, as we've just said, and there's been a number of attempts. But when they do get it right, and often it's Epics that have done that, when they do get it right, you get games like World Games, or you get games like your leaderboards and stuff. So it's nice to see that there's a good representative sports games that rely on physics and representation of rules and things in there. That's good to see. Alter Ego, that's very interesting that's in there. That's very interesting.
And that we both went for it.
Yeah, and I can totally see why as well.
Yeah.
I can totally see why. So
I mean, we were very, very praiseworthy of that in the episode we spoke about it.
And with good reason. I think to debate whether these 3 sit, because Alter Ego is completely different in every possible way to those other 2. And I wonder if the problem I have is that I'm going to layer in something that I think these games have to have in them to be in the best game. So to be in the best game, to be the best game, and to be in the best game, you've got to be really good at all the things that make these games good. All of them. And I think one of those things, okay, so Alter Ego doesn't have the graphics of, say, World Games, but Alter Ego has other things that make up for that in terms of its game logic and other stuff. However, there's a few things I think that set some of the other games over Alter Ego in here. And I think if we let's take graphics out, because that's not a fair comparison. We're not comparing apples and, it's apples and pears, really, if we do that. But okay, they're in the same thing. The graphics for Alter Ego are suitable for Alter Ego. So the graphics for Leaderboard are suitable for golf and so on. However, accessibility to these games. Alter Ego was a difficult game to get hold of, expensive, and not widely available. So not everyone will have even had a chance to play Alter Ego and get hold of it. Even back then, it was really hard to get hold of Alter Ego because it was, I think, an American release.
Disc only and stuff. And
so that's thing number one, is that out of all those three games, it's the least accessible. Out of all those three games, however, Alter Ego is probably the most complex in terms of all the stuff that's in it. It's the biggest game out of all of them in terms of its space, because you've got all that text in there, all those different encounters, all of that stuff. But it's also the game that's dated the worst out of all three, because some of the content in there, as you pointed out at the time of when we reviewed it, some of the content is either confusing and doesn't quite work in context of the game. So some of the logic makes errors, and it's kind of dated in a kind of it's very of its time in terms of its representations of gender and stereotype and all of those things. So it is, and you have to accept that about it, because there's no gender fluidity in that. It's there's a male version, there's a female version, and those definitions of male and female, however you feel about that, they are what they are in that game. Those games. I never actually saw Alter Ego on the shelf anywhere. I only came by it because I got a copy of it from someone many, many, many years after it came out, and only the male version. I'd only ever played the female version once it became more available on the internet. And so I think, as much as I love Alter Ego because it is a genuinely clever, compelling experience, if I put it side by side with Leaderboard and World Games, I actually prefer those games. I think they're better games. They're more fun. They're more multiplayer fun. I've had more fun with them. Alter Ego is a solo flight, personal journey and experience, and don't get me wrong, it's an incredible thing to have on your CV of games that you've played in your life, and it does take you on an entire lifelong journey, and that is something. But if I sit there and think, how much fun have I had with those three games, and in all the time I've been playing games, and from the age of when I first played those all the way up to now, and World Games and Leaderboard, head and shoulders, I've had more fun at playing those by miles than Alter Ego. So I don't think I could put Alter Ego at the top for me. And so for me, it then becomes a debate around Leaderboard versus World Games. And then I'm falling in very difficult territory. But I'm going to say this, and you may agree or disagree, and obviously you're free to discuss and everything else. I have to say, World Games is an amazing thing, but not every game in World Games is great. Leaderboard is great. End of. All of it. There's no aspect of Leaderboard that isn't good. And every version of Leaderboard that came after it is also very good. And it set the benchmark for golf games forever. And I think it deserves perhaps does set it apart from the other two in that list, because it's actually a complete... World Games is an extension of the logic of Summer Games. But I think in the review, when we spoke about it, you preferred Summer Games because I think there's something just slightly a bit more coherent about Summer Games and its experience. World Games is an amazing looking experience sound-wise. The events are fun, but log rolling isn't that much fun. And some of the events in it are really funny, but they're not as good as if you've got four of your mates round and you all play a round of Leaderboard, and you have a sort of a 4-player game, and the fun of going through that experience and all the rest of it. And so I think I'm leaning towards Leaderboard as my favourite out of those three, but what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I made no bones about at the beginning of the year something that the Eidolon is one of my favourite games. So, but by process of our elimination, it's not in there. So fair enough. If we go by those three, then I've never sort of considered Alter Ego in those terms that you just laid out there, and I think that's a good argument. Some good points you've actually made, and it is so unlike everything else, because coming into this, I think I was 100% set on giving it to Alter Ego because it was unlike so much anything else, and there is very little like it. And in 1986, to release a product like this, to release something that was doing what it did, and then a few I don't know how many months or whether it was a year later, the female version came out, to do this sort of thing was it annoyed me when we spoke about the Sentinel, I think, and they went, and in the review they said, oh, we can't score this. And yet you scored Alter Ego. And Alter Ego is so unlike anything else. Sentinel is a game, and it has game written all over it. Alter Ego is a completely different kettle of fish. It's even almost unreviewable.
Yes.
You either like it or you don't. And so, but I think those points you make for the time are quite coherent, that they're quite important, I think. And yeah, accessibility. I could never play this because I never had a disc drive.
Yes.
So it was years before I actually got to play this. And I think I just played it round either at your house or Gary's house, or because you guys had disc drives. So I think I bored Gary one point sort of thing, and he just sat there for 5 hours while I sat and played it. And he whatever he did, I don't know. I didn't turn around. No, I don't like turning around when I've got my back to him, because I don't know what I'm going to be sighted with.
He was either making a cheese sandwich or he was masturbating. The sound and the smell are the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Or putting some bogies underneath his desk.
Yeah. Oh God, no! It was like flashbacks.
It was like the top of a cave under there.
Oh no!
It was like stalactites. It
was like growing diamonds.
Yeah.
Ew.
When I used to sit, if I moved my legs wrong, they'd shred the top of my knees. My mum was always wondering why there's just massive claw marks in my jeans.
I mean, if you look down the edge of that table, it looked like the serrated edge of a Swiss Army knife. And you think, what? Why is it? It looks like his desk had shark's teeth.
It did, yeah.
It did, and if you touched on it, oh God, pain.
Absolutely, yeah. You needed a tetanus shot.
You did. We were bogey stabbed, and that's gross and painful at the same time. No one wants to get bogey stabbed.
Nobody.
Ew. That is actually the grossest thing I think we've ever come out with in this podcast. We saved that for all the other gross things we've talked about, and we've talked about some horrible stuff, but just everything about that last 5 minutes of conversation I'm trying to erase out my mind right now.
Gary never adhered to its clean-up time, I can tell you that.
He did not, no. Oh, God. No. That crusty bogey.
That desk.
He had bogey icicles, essentially.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, stalactites.
Bogeycles.
Yeah, he crawled under there with a heart. He needed a hard heart.
He went caving under his table.
Yeah, absolutely.
God. So, anyway, but if you listen to this, Gary, by the way, we apologise. We're not taking the piss out of you. We're taking the piss out of you from years ago. Right now, I'm sure you don't, but I hope you don't do any of those things. I'm sure you don't.
No, absolutely. Yeah, often I went spelunking under there.
Not before he did. I'm telling you, he spelunked all over the place in that room. Goodness me.
Jesus Christ. Best game.
Anyway, we've digressed somewhat from... you played Alter Ego at Gary's house.
I played Alter Ego, so it was hard to get older. But I think your comments about the nature of it places it very, very strongly in a specific period of time.
Yes.
And it's like, it's like watching The Breakfast Club or film St. Elmo's Fire. It's like watching one of those in a modern context, and you go, that's a bit, there are elements of it that haven't stood up. And I think we have to kind of take that into consideration if we're going back on them now and what we thought. So I love Alter Ego, and I think it's quite clear that the pair of us both love Alter Ego and admire it for its many things. But I think you're right. I think the other two are more gamey. And if we come to those other two, leaderboard is just perfect.
Yes.
It doesn't do anything wrong. It's simple. Like I said, the noise in the cup and the ball in the cup is just perfect. Everything is right. Everything. It's just a great, and it like you just mentioned as well, and like we said when we talked about it many episodes back, it set the benchmark.
It did.
It is. Every golf game of any merit that came later had to look like that.
Yep.
Follow that angle, follow that view, and almost get that control system.
Yep.
It took all those steps and just all in one go, just did them all. Here you go. Like you said about Galway, and other people were making these things. And don't forget, about a couple of weeks after this, we played Hole in One. Now, I know you said that was the Aldi Hole in One.
It's budget leaderboard. Yeah.
budget leaderboard.
Car boot leaderboard, I think is our description of that.
Yeah, but it just shows that the leaderboard just got everything. They just went, this is how we do it. There you go.
It is a lesson.
And other games will come along and do similar. Hopefully, I don't know, there's loads of golf games by the looks of it. World games, and I think you're right here as well, is not as coherent, and I said it in the review, it's not as coherent a package as Summer Games 2, which is still my favourite game.
Yeah, and
above and I know we've got California games to come. Yeah, so of this lot, Summer Games 2, Winter Games, World Games, California Games, and then you get the Games Sports Edition and the Games Winter Edition somewhere down the line, which I don't really remember much of. Summer Games 2 is always the one I will go back to. There's just something cohesively perfect about it. All the events work. The equestrians are toughened, but it works, and it's still fun to play if you get it right once you learn it. Some of the games in this, like you said, the log rolling, the sumo, they're not as high quality.
No, and I think you actually hit on a good point when you did the review for the podcast episode, which is some of it's in there. It feels like it's a bit of a laugh more than it's a bit of a good game. And I think sometimes they get the balance just a little bit wrong, and it's a bit more for kicks and a bit more for a goof, and doesn't take itself too seriously, which they kind of fall into the trap of with California games later down the line and other ones. Whereas some of the games too is far more. It's not. These games are. It's more serious an approach to the sports it's presenting. Whereas World Games is kind of has moments of silliness, and I think you have to take that into account.
Yeah, and so for me, I mean, if we from these 3 games, leaderboard is just. It would probably be in my top 3 personally for the year, for sure. The other 2. Maybe not. There's an argument for those, but I think leaderboard would. There's no question, shadow of a doubt. And I said it when I played. We did the review. That I went back to it, and it was just enjoyed my time with it to such a degree that I couldn't stop playing it. I was playing it all afternoon. I played single player, multiplayer, all on my own. And it's ages since I've done that with a game that I wanted to sort of have lots of goes of the same thing. Yeah. And it's got its little quirks, like little lines, but it, that's, to me, that's player affordance. That's giving you a bit of niceness to the player rather than being punishing, because so many games we play are so bloody punishing.
Yes.
To the pixel thing. But this one was like, no, you know what? Have a bit of leeway. And it just did it. And whether that was purposeful or not, I don't know. I'm guessing it was. But Leaderboard for me is a standout game, not just from this year, but from the Commodore 64's library.
Yes, I completely agree.
And that for me is, I would drop on, I think it's certainly it's an above par game.
Yes, very good. Yes, it's in an elite group in that list. You've got some heavy hitters in there: Druid, the Eidolon, Green Beret, for example. Those are all Parallax. Those are all really good games to have in the sort of top list. They're all amazing, but at the end of the day, we have to pick out of those into the 3 we did. And I stand by. I think World Games is an amazing game. Don't get me wrong, but Leaderboard is astonishing.
And I'll also say this as well. Neither of us are golfers.
No, I'm no Golf Lundgren.
We're not. No, we're not Golf Lundgrens. And for us to sort of go away from the comedy of World Games sort of thing to a game that I don't like watching golf. No. Really. I don't tune in for the Open or the Masters or whatever, or the one that's just been on, the Ryder Cup or whatever. I know them, but I don't care for them. But put me in front of Leaderboard and I love it.
Yeah.
And that to me is a sign of a game that is doing something right.
Absolutely, and and the multiplayer aspect of Leaderboard, because you can play at different levels when you play it. So if you're quite experienced, you can go for that.
Yeah.
Whereas your novices can play at a more novice level. That is very clever thinking to think like that, and that actually makes it more accessible than any of the other sports games, because none of them do that apart from Leaderboard. And I think that's really to its credit. That's something really unique about it. And again, it's one of those things that sets it again head and shoulders above the fact that it tracks it that way and everything else. Now, I remember having lots of people around the house, and a game of Leaderboard was something we all got stuck into and had a real good laugh with, and World Games to some extent as well. But I think we all, if I was actually sat and looked back on it, I remember having such fun with Leaderboard, and when people got stuck and couldn't do it and it went wrong and you're laughing your head off at them and stuff like that. No, Leaderboard. I think Leaderboard has to be the top of those 3, without doubt.
Yeah, we're in agreement then.
We are.
That's good. That wasn't so bad then. That was no. Well, I suppose when a game of such quality is there.
Yeah. And another later entry into the year as well.
Is it? No, it's in the summer.
Yeah, but it's a later entry.
It's a later entry than Willow Pattern, which was also in my consideration. No, it wasn't. So, Graham, would you like to announce our best game?
The best game for 1986 is Leaderboard. Is it Leaderboard Golf or Leaderboard?
Who cares?
The best game for 1986 is Leaderboard Golf.
Maybe. You all know it's Leaderboard. You remember it. It's Leaderboard. Whitman, Price, and Haddad.
They played Leaderboard. You remember them?
They did indeed. So there you go. That's a really good trio of quality games. You're not going to go wrong with any of them. No. Or even any of the 7 we've listed there. They're all amazing stuff, and shows that's quite a breadth of game as well, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, the Eidolon was February. Alter Ego was fairly early. You got golf games. You got a standout arcade conversion.
Yeah,
a better version of the arcade that will come along now. Druid.
So last year a sports game won our best game, didn't it?
No, it's Paradroid.
It was one of the runners up, wasn't it? Summer Games 2.
Summer Games 2 was.
And this year we've got 2 sports games in the top there. Next year is going to be interesting. Next year is going to be really interesting.
It will be. Yes. So there we go.
Real heavy hitters next year. So not that there isn't this time, but yeah, there we go.
There we go. Best game. Leaderboard. Well done.
Well done. Well done.
A real proper golf clap.
Well done. Yes, we'll actually put a proper golf clap in there for that.
We should do, yeah. Let's move on to our next award then. Which is a bit of fun, because it's the best Crapvert, or the worst Crapvert, or the best. It's the crappiest Crapvert, whatever you want to call this. So we haven't actually chosen for these, so we're going to go through them and just I think it's going to be gut reactions here.
Yeah, and I have actually been through some of these and looked, and I'm going to base it on the ones that we've just put it, because we picked out a few and put them in the document that we have, like a shared document. And as I've gone through them, some of them are stand out for me. So I would put the Warplay Bongo advert in there with the winter events.
Just for Bongo.
For Bongo, that goes in there, I think. I think Think is another one that would perhaps go in there, because it's just stupid. And it has got Blitz Think, Speed Think. It's got all that stupid think logic. And then you get into sort of there's a lot of dubious looking ones in there. You know, we've got the stupid egg-based tomfoolery of Sports for All. You got the Hessian-backed Highlander. You've got, synthetic man changes nappy in stupid Prodigy. I'm always leaning towards there's that Mumbles one. He's so stupid with that stupid miniature man with a big chin, let alone the head bone. It's just, they're all pretty crap, aren't they? I think I'm going to rule out the Micro Gen 3 Weeks in Paradise one, because it's just visually offensive, and I'm going to take out something that's offensive, because it is.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I just put it in there because it is a crap.
It is, yeah. No, it's deserved in the Crapvert, but I think I'm just ruling it out because I'm going for crap, not controversial, and I think that's on the controversial.
I think Mantronics needs to go in,
and I think Mantronics. I was just going to say, I think out of those, Mantronics is the one with the stupid 4 drawings on it and that weird robot thing in the middle with the burly chest. Yes, I think those 3. So Mantronics advert, Think, and Warplay / Bongo. Say bloody Bongo. Which was the woman that's been menaced by giant rats and never really explained what it is. It's just, that's what it is.
Just as an aside, I went and, because I was looking at these today, I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a look, see what this game is. So I went and just YouTubed it, because I'm not going to play it. And it's a weird single screen laddery type thing where there's a woman in the top left and you actually play a rat in clothes wandering around, and I couldn't make out what was going on, and there was things going, and you have to spell the word bongo, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the hell was going on. But that advert, that bit of it, there's giant rats and a woman on a stairs with her dress blowing up, and the rat behind her looks like he's about ready to do. It's just awful.
Not good.
And he's about ready to show her his bongo.
So we're putting Warplay / Bongo in there then.
Yeah. Warplay's obviously crap as well. That's stupid. But the winter events down the bottom, that whole menagerie of that whole horribleness. But Bongo.
And that's Anko, isn't it? So the classic. It's another classic.
Of course, it's Anko.
Anko, because they're famous for that. Because we've debated many Anko adverts. So
yeah, there was the shaded egg.
And then we've got the Think, which I noticed that it's an Areola soft game, and they usually did quite good stuff. But that advert, it's another one where they put a miniature version of the game advert in the game advert, and it seems to be a theme.
I was tempted to put in the Thai boxing one, but
God, yeah, that's another one that had a miniature version of the advert, didn't it? In there, but
yes.
So I think is the the precursor to that, and it's got so much gibberish, nonsensical exclamation mark driven crazy in that it deserves to be there, and it also, I love that yellow box where it explains what it is. What is Think? Because you're never going to get it from that advert. It's just it's a robotic see-through skull with arrows pointing at it. It's just completely stupid.
On a grid, on the de facto 1980s grid.
It has to have a grid. You've got to have the game grid because of Tron.
Always with a grid.
And then the Mantronics one, just badly drawn faces. That's what makes me remember of that Mantronics one.
The Mantronics one is the robot with his name on his chest wielding a fleshlight.
That's right. Yeah, it actually is a fleshlight in there. And so you've got the 4 characters, each one looking. Well, you've got one. The first one looks like a pig. The other one looks like a dodgy pirate. The third one looks like a member of the Proclaimers that looks like he's been surprised with a sausage up his bottom.
Well, see, I think he's gone to sleep and he's painted the eyes on his glasses.
Oh, that, yeah. And then you've got, I don't even know, he described old Gummy Joe there in the bottom right corner. I don't know what that is. His head's all misshapen. He's got no teeth. His teeth have gone all wrong. So
it's the guy in the top left as well who looks like Dr. Solo from the thingy films, the Marvel films, is with his piggy nose. Is he thinking new release 795 cassette as well?
Yeah, he
looks
must be
like a
thinking
thought
that,
bubble or something that's just popping out of his head, and that's what he thinks of when he looks at a metal man wielding a fleshlight.
It is, and that metal man is clearly inspired by the metal woman, actually, of the Fritz Lang movie, Metropolis. So it's a little bit Metropolis-y with the sort of, it has to have the the tokenistic robotic red eyes in there. But the Mantronics logo itself, A, it's not straight in the advert, so they clearly can't do things properly. But B, it's also got a terrible depth effect combined with some kind of gradiated fill on an angle. It's so horrific, and it's on a space background for some reason.
Yeah, what's the planet all about?
Well, why is it there's a planet and the robot's just walking? It's just having a walk in space. It's just it's just crap. That's why it's a crapvert, because one of the prevailing concepts that runs through all of the crappiest crapverts that we have is that they literally make no sense. The Warplay Bongo game makes no sense because none of those games look like they should exist in the real world. And I don't think there's ever been a game called Bongo where you're a rat terrorizing a woman on a platform. It's all kinds of crazy. The Think advert, it's just so much content on the advert that I think the person who designed it thought, you know what, if we put enough stuff in it, it's really going to make people think. But just in case they don't get it, let's make sure we explain it in every possible way. But then just went punctuation mad, and it's like his exclamation key just went off at random like a machine gun. So, and of course, Mantronics.
And the thing is, that Think one, if you look at the blue blurb down the bottom, it says available from all good software retailers. If it's not there, please order it. Or in case of difficulty, it's like please buy this, please.
And didn't we say that the term areola was actually the area around the nipple as well? So this was nipple games.
It sounds the same. It's not spelt the same, but yes, it's yeah.
So this is
it's
soft, nipple games.
Soft nipples.
So soft nipples present Think, a supreme test of logic and strategy. What is Think? Essentially a board game. I'll have that open now. Essentially, it's a board game. So why have I bought this on a computer then? So I know. I suppose we've got to debate. We've got to think of which one wins the best crapvert out of those three. And there's been a lot of crapverts in there. Although obviously they're waning in supply towards. There's nowhere near as many as there was in 1985. Goodness me.
Oh God, no. And don't forget, we've skipped over the Battle of the Planets abomination.
Yes, we have, with it cut out.
Because I don't know who drew them.
Yes, we have.
And also we've also we've put to one side Dirty Den.
Yeah, I did mention the Dirty Den with that cheeky sort of weirdness and the Nigel Tufnell looking woman weirdly.
I don't understand it. But
I don't.
For me, number one this year is Mantronics.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I think he's just too text heavy, and Bongo is one crappy game on a sea of crappy games, and every Anchor advert's actually like that. So I think,
but Mantronics looks like it's been tried to be designed.
It's a robot wielding a sex toy in space, and that does not sell that game. I don't care which way you look at it.
And he's got his name on his chest.
Yeah, it's just in case you forgot. And he's been eyeballed by 4 very dubious looking people.
It's
just stupid. It fulfills all the quality tick boxes that we have on our crapvert list. It makes no sense. It doesn't advertise the game. The logo is rubbish and not drawn properly. The graphics that are drawn are crap. And at the end of the day, it's not really clear what it's about. But all we do know is that there's a giant silver robot floating over a planet in space, older than a sex toy. And for those reasons, it's a crapvert, and I think it deserves to be the best one out of those.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well. I think Mantronics is our crapvert of the year by. I'm not sure if it's in the. I think it actually might be in the same league as last year's Metabolist.
Metabolist has a special place.
But what is it about the letter M?
I don't know.
2 M games.
It's 2 M's.
Because this one is half man, half robot. Last year's was half man, half bird.
Yeah, they just couldn't be sure what half was what, and it's never explained why he's holding a. And
he's got a groinal bulge going on around this robot as well for no reason.
He's got robot pants, hasn't he? He's got robo pants.
He's got his robot pants on with his belt.
He has.
Why does he need a belt?
Yeah, why? What's that red button? That's his on-off button, surely, which is an obvious place.
That's to power on the fleshlight.
And he looks like he's walking with purpose there. So whatever he's going to do with that fleshlight, you can back off. And no wonder those 4 people looking at him are all strangely faced and aggrieved. They've all been robo-fleshlit, which sounds very painful. Very painful.
Massively painful. And this for what looks like from the screenshots, some crap isometric nonsense.
No, God, doesn't it just? No, Mantronics all the way.
Yeah, there we go. So thank you very much. That was it. That's your best. God, your best Crapvert. So Graham, would you like to announce the best Crapvert?
The best Crapvert for 1986 goes to Mantronics.
I'm not clapping.
Boo, get off.
Get off.
Be less crap.
All right. That's it, isn't it? That's all our main awards.
That's all our main awards. We've just got a few sort of silly mentions of little things here and there, and then that's...
Yeah, so let's jump to them then, shall we? Let's jump to what we've got. A few extra bits coming up. All right, yeah, so there you go. That's that bit. Okay, so as promised, we've got some listeners' awards just to see what you guys thought. So what did you think were the best games of 1986? And some of you have let us know, so it's always cool. Let us know through Facebook or forums or Twitter or through Instagram. So that's always cool to get this kind of feedback. So let's knock through these and see what you thought. So Unofficial Who from Rulebook Forum, he said his best game of the year was PSI 5 Trading Company.
Interesting.
Yeah, he said he was probably the only person who would vote for this.
Very true.
And he's very true. Yes, he's not wrong. Okay. His best music was Parallax.
Good choice.
Great choice. He said it might not be the best music of the game, but it's an impressive and brave piece of music.
Yes.
And his best graphics were the Sacred Armor of Antiriad.
Okay, well, good choices there.
Yeah, so 3 strong choices. All PSI 5 Tried is a left field entry, but not something we considered, was it?
No, left field entry sounds painful, but we'll go with that.
Indeed. Again from Rulebook, Carlton Handley, who is not only one of our listeners, but he's also the creator of All Points Bulletin, Rugby the World Cup, Skull and Crossbones, Spitting Image, Wanderer, and the recent Millie and Molly, and Run and Gun.
Oh, Millie and Molly's Ace, that new one. That's really good.
Yeah, and Run and Gun. He thinks his best game for 86 was Split Personalities.
Okay.
His best music was Thrust.
Ooh.
And best graphics was Mercenary.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Programmer. So I'm wondering, I can only think that's
as the mayor of Tag, I'd like to thank him for his vote of confidence. And he's quite welcome to come and stay at the hotel once it's built and we've figured out how to stop people being able to see through the showers. So,
yeah, they need to. From Facebook, one of our in our group, Facebook group, KF Lim, his favourite game was Mercenary.
Interesting. I thought that might be more popular.
Yeah. His graphics went to Dan Deere.
Oh, good choice. That was in our list, I think. Wasn't my winner?
I think it was. Yeah, it's an interesting. It was a visually arresting game. That was good. However, and I will use this music he gave to Glider Rider.
That the Dave Whitaker piece.
Yeah.
You didn't like that one, did you? I thought it was all right. But
I hated it. But there's 2 tunes in it, isn't there? There's 2. There's one on the bike and there's one in the air. And as you spend most of the time on your bike, and that's all. Anyway, K like that. So fair play. That's your choices, and you can own them. Andy Marsh on Facebook. His best music was Yi Kung Fu.
Good choice.
Which is a good choice. His best game, his best game was Uridium.
Okay. Very early entry into that year, but yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, absolutely. And his best graphics, another one for the Sacred Armor of Antiriad.
Yeah, I think that's, interesting. He's picked from 2 complete ends of the annual spectrum there.
Yeah. But he's also given us an extra award, which was the best budget. But he's given us smiley faces and put Red Max. So I don't think he's being entirely serious here.
I hope he's not.
You can get on your moon bike and you can try and stop all the terrors that happened in that. Well,
we also
plot.
know that when the revolution comes and the world ends, he's going to be the first person with his fence panel. So we know that.
Yeah, and no one can get in as long as they've got some electricity.
Yeah, exactly. We need that to live. I need it for my fences. Bugger off.
Exactly. Dr. Goggles on Twitter. He said there were some good games to choose from. Antiriad, Ghouls and Ghosts, Infiltrated, Green Beret, Thrust. But for him, he has chosen Uridium for his best game.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally get why you would choose that. I think we would have been pushed to have 2 Andrew Braybrookes, one after another. From my perspective, I don't think it's... But I can see why you put it there. It's a good shooter.
I can as well. It's a quality shootable. A lot of good tunes this year. Zoids, Last V8 Commando, Bombo, Green Beret, Ghosts and Goblins. But his favourite was Spellbound.
Okay. Yeah, I can totally dig that.
I think we were quite. That was in our consideration before we went all Galway, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it was. It's definitely in the list, and it's just from my personal view, I just don't think that 1986 was Hubbard's year. I think that'll come. Yeah. That comes.
Yeah. His graphics, he had World Games, Colden 2, Ghosts and Goblins again, are very good, but maybe he's probably thinking he's going to give it to Antiriad.
Yeah.
So another Sacred Arm of Antiriad for graphics. I think we said this at the time, that it just comes along and stamps a foot on
does.
the graphics
earthy, mud-coloured foot.
Yeah, exactly.
From Tal.
But he's also stated that games based on plates are the best. And that's a long list of games, and he'll have to ponder that.
As we've said many times, not on crockery.
Not on crockery. Don't base your games on crockery. Our sponsor, David Hearn, his best game was Mercenary.
He loves that game.
Which he said we knew it was coming. I thought he was going to go with Shogun because he's got a very strong penchant for Shogun. So I'm surprised, David, you've gone for that. I thought you were going to pick Shogun with how much you've waxed lyrical about that. But there you go. And also World Games. So Mercenary and World Games he's put here. His best graphics were World Games. And his best music was Green Beret.
Okay, yeah. It was in R3.
Yeah. It was in R3, wasn't it? Yeah, so totally see where that's coming from. It is a great piece of... It is a great tune. No doubt about that. And finally, Sam Hodgen from Facebook said there was too many to choose from, but he'd have to say, let's have a look. I think this is best game, but it's Thrust, Mercenary, Sentinel, and Iridium, and the music prize is to Sanction.
Okay.
So I think he can't choose his best games from Thrust, Mercenary, Sentinel, and Iridium.
Okay.
But music's going to Sanction.
Fair enough.
And the graphics at the time were Mercenary, another graphical one.
So
because he was amazed by the 3D world. So,
yeah,
I don't think we're far off, are we, with our choices from some of our listeners? They seem to be in the same ballpark.
I think it's interesting. I think it's made me think a little bit about how we look at the graphics, because there is that. We look at the pixel painted graphics and pixel art, but there is, of course, the technical aspect of graphics, which it's made me think a little bit about next time it comes around in the end of 97, I'm going to think a little bit more about the way I think about the graphics, because I think I get suckered in really easily by nice pixel drawings and pixel paint. I'm a huge fan of pixel art. But you know what? Technically displayed graphics are a thing, and we've got Driller and stuff like that coming up, so maybe we'll need to think about that.
That was one of the reasons in my original list is why I had the Eidolon in there, because I think technically the graphics in the Eidolon are incredible, really. But
you're the only person on Earth that thinks that.
I know, but I'm happy in my skin, and the rest of you can all sod off, as far as I'm concerned. So there you go. That's the Listeners' Awards for 1986. Thank you to all who gave us your feedback and your votes. It's always greatly appreciated. And obviously, if they aligned with ours, then that's great. If they didn't, then you're just clearly wrong.
Yeah.
But never mind, eh? So there you go. That was the Listeners' Awards. So thanks for that. So we look, obviously, throughout the year, we look at media as well. So we look at films, we look at TV. We're not going to do the best TV because that's nonsense. Otherwise, it'd be like the Swindon test card fiasco or something, or whatever. But we've certainly looked at a lot of films, and I'd like to, I don't know whether we're going to do a top three or just a best one, or, do we have so we've got some list of films here. What's our best film then for 1986?
Ooh,
what would you air on? The list, I'll just go through the list. This is the one that I picked out. We've got Rocky IV, Commando, Young Sherlock Holmes, Fright Night, The Hitcher, From Beyond, Day of the Dead, Aliens, Top Gun, Big Trouble in Little China, and Crocodile Dundee.
Okay.
Good lot of films.
There is. This is a standout winner for me out of all of those, by miles, actually, I have to say.
Does it begin with A and end in Aliens?
Yeah, Aliens by miles is the best one out of this. They're all good. Yeah. There's some good moments in all of them, but Aliens is the most accomplished. If I was going to have because there's different categories there, because that's a good sci-fi movie. You've got good horror movie is The Hitcher, actually very underrated in terms of that list, but it's actually genuinely brilliant. I watched it again recently. It's really, really good, The Hitcher.
Yeah,
Day of the Dead, if it's gross out stuff, but I think The Hitcher actually tips out of all of those is the best horror movie out of them. Mm-hmm. And, if you're going to go for a kind of a cheesy, silly movie, well, Rocky 4 is about as cheesy, silly as it gets out of that list. I mean, Crocodile Dundee's good. They're all good, but if I was going to pick a super the top of the league would be Aliens. Second in the list for different reasons probably be The Hitcher. And if I had to pick a 3, it would probably be, for me, Big Trouble in Little China, because I really like John Carpenter movies. But, anyone could fulfill any of the criteria. The Rocky 4's got moments. Commando's hilarious. Young Sherlock Holmes has got some really weird, gross out bits in it. Fright Night is brilliant, but I actually I really like the new version, but Fright Night is brilliant. From Beyond is just completely bizarre and weird, but has some really good moments. Top Gun, you know what? It's a great big high concept, crazy movie, but
it's an important film,
it is, and in the cinema,
for reasons.
It is, and in the cinema, it really is a good experience. It's a good cinema experience, big blockbuster cinema experience. And you got, Big Trouble, Crocodile Dundee, all good, but no, Aliens by miles is the best one out of that list.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. I'd probably get Aliens, Hitcher, Rocky 4 would be my 3, I think.
Yeah, I'd say any. The top 2 are pretty set on. Any of those others could fulfill my number 3.
Number 3. Yeah, I think that's about right. There you go.
But you should watch them all. Go and watch them all, one after another, in that order.
Yeah, do it. We have speaketh it. We have. So, do you want to announce it? Go on, let's have an announcement for it as well.
So what are we even calling that award? So this isn't it's
the best film of 1986.
So the best film of 1986 is Aliens.
Did you forget?
I did for a second, yeah, but I'll cut,
I thought
I'll
you
cut
did.
the gap out.
No, leave it in. Leave it. Do it to a simmer.
Put a drum roll in.
Okay.
So I suppose next then, just quickly, is the follow-on.
Best music, which following on from last year is now 8.
Yeah, I think that's it. Now 8 wins.
It was now 5 last year, wasn't it?
Yes, and it's now 8, yeah. I think that's what we...
So I presume next year will be now 11.
That's how we do it. It just saves all the debate and arguing, because, music debate on that could go on forever. So, yeah, I agree. Now 8. Go and listen to Now 8. Yep.
Or you could... There is a special mention that I think we need to specially mention, which was the Heronade.
God.
For all the burl, for all the guitar solos, for seeing all those people in a room together, for including Spinal Tap in a serious thing, seriously. For watching T-shirts unravel over the period of a video.
Oh my God, yeah. There's some really unusual clothes choices in that particular... And for being inexplicably not supporting deaf people or a deaf charity, even though it's called Hearing Aid, it's nothing to do with actual hearing charities. It was just a charity record for charities, for reasons. But was you supporting a deaf charity? Nah, they won't be able to wear it. So there's no point. Which would have been their remit for that. But yeah, Now 8 wins the best music. We won't officially announce that one because we know Now wins.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's our awards. We've done them.
We have.
So do you want me to quickly round them up? Shall I quickly round them up? Right. So yeah, just to round up, our best visuals, best graphics was the Sacred Armor of Antiriad with Robin of the Wood and Law of the West. Best sound was World Games with runners-up Cauldron 2 and Desert Fox. Our Sunday best or worst game was Pub Games, followed closely by Sam Fox Strip Poker and Knight Rider. Best music was Parallax with Green Beret and Rambo, or as we're calling it this year, the Martin Galway Award. Craziest concept was Room 10, followed by Tube the Bells and The Comet. Our best game was Leaderboard, followed by World Games and Alter Ego. And our best crapvert was Mantronics, with honourable mentions to Think and Bongo, or Play by Anko. Oh, there you go. That's the awards. Right, so that's it. That's 1986 done.
It's a wrap.
1987 is on the horizon.
There we go.
I'm not going to beat around the bush here. There are a lot of games covered
that list
in 1987. So
moly.
I picked out just a few. This is from the whole year, so I just went through every Zap and just picked out some standouts that all for various reasons. It may not be good games, but for things that the C64 is going on with. So or parts of them that may be good. And we've got things coming up like Dragon's Lair 2, Gauntlet, Space Harrier, Labyrinth, Knucklebusters, Aliens, Delta.
Oh my God.
Into the Eagle's Nest, Barbarian, Eyeball, Whizball, World Class Leaderboard, Defender of the Crown, The Last Ninja, California Games, The Proper Kickstart 2, Rebounder, Ace 2, Bubble Bobble.
Bubble Bobble. Raggy Bob.
I know. Mega Apocalypse, Enlightenment, Druid 2, Cudex,
oh my God.
Bangkok Nights, Maniac Mansion, Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, Street Hassle.
Oh no.
I had to put that in because it's a bit of a laugh. I remember that one. That's the one where you can beat up grannies, isn't it?
Beat up grannies, and you can actually blind people in the ground.
That's going to be interesting to go to. And then finally, Nebulous.
Oh, Nebulous! My gosh. Wow!
Yeah, so
look at that list.
That's when I looked, and I'm not. There's just as a heads up, we know we're going to have triple episodes coming up because some of the issues when I've been looking through, they've got like 40 odd games in them.
Yep.
And if we're going to commit to our remit, which is we play them so you don't have to and look at them all, we can't. We're not going to be able to fit them into 2 episodes.
No.
So there's so much bloody content coming. There's so much stuff coming down the pipeline. We've got to play all these games.
We do. Lord. But do you know, there's games in there that I'm really looking forward to revisiting because I haven't played them in quite a while. I mean, these games that obviously everyone knows certain games in that list. Everyone knows Whizball is a great game and Last Ninja and stuff like that. We all know that. Mm-hmm. So there's some stuff in there that, are going to be interesting to go back to. There's some amazing music. Obviously, we've got Knucklebusters in there and there's some others that are equally good in there. But there's some interesting other games in there that often don't come to light in these kind of discussions. Bubble Bobble is an incredible conversion from the arcade for the C64.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Bangkok Nights is a really good fighting game with enormous sprites. And Nebulous is a astonishing technical construction of a game. It is just mind-blowing how clever that game is put together. And then even if you roll it back down to things like Eyeball and Barbarian is not without its really good merit. And there's just those few you've mentioned there. I mean, that is by no means... In the first, I think, 3 issues of Zzap, we'll have played nearly half the amount of games we played in the entire last year of the podcast. And that tells you the volume of games that 1987's full. So inevitably, we're going to have to split perhaps the episodes into more parts. It's just more content for you guys listening. And so, and more games for us to play so you don't have to, really. Don't worry, we'll filter out all those ones for you.
Yeah, because I'm going to imagine that there's going to be a lot of garbage.
Yes.
And there's going to be a lot sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, some of them I can't remember. When I was going through the list earlier on, there's just so many of them. I was like, never heard of it, never heard of it, don't know, never heard of it, don't know. So it's going to be interesting. And like a lot this year, I'm hoping to find many, many diamonds in the rough, but I'm sure there'll be lots of turds in the grass.
1987 was the year I got my Expert cartridge. And later in 1987 was the year I got my Action Replay cartridge. So I can tell you that it's also the year that I stopped paying for games, generally. so some of the ones, I didn't have a lot of the instructions for some of these games later down the line. So it's going to be quite refreshing to have them when I replay them now.
And try and understand them.
And figure out. And some of these games I have a feeling might be better because of that, and some of them might not be, but we'll see.
It is, yeah. So I think that's about it. This has been our awards. That's been 1986. I have thoroughly enjoyed this year.
Yes.
It's been great. There's been some many lows, but even the lows, I just, I laugh. They make me. Some of these games make me angry, but I find myself laughing at so many inept moments and just what were they thinking and oh my Lord sort of thing. But I don't know. Do we have a reputation for being harsh? We just play them and say what we think.
We've played all of these games and. You know what? When they're great, we do sing their praises, but there has been some real stinkertrons in there, and we can't, and I'm not going to let them get away with it.
No.
But now, look at those lists, and those crappy games are in good company now. They're in very strong company, so they've got to really up their game, and it'd be interesting to see how crap the games are now compared to the really good ones, because. There's interesting dynamics. I'm looking forward to seeing how the budget games play out against some of the big licenses and all of that. There's a whole interesting sea of things to come. We haven't even played Highlander yet, for goodness sake, and we know that's good. Mm-hmm. We know that's the best game ever.
I didn't put that in. I didn't put it in.
Good, don't. There can be only one.
It would be the only one in the list if I put it in.
Well, next year we're doing a Highlander award. It's the Highlander award for being Highlander. There can be only one game that wins it, right?
And it is in Highlander.
And it won't be Highlander, yeah. Because that's not a very good Highlander game.
No. Yeah, so there's tons and tons of stuff to do. Do we want to talk about what we've got planned?
I think we could just give a little bit of a taster of 1987.
Well, we better do
things to come.
It's going well. What we've got planned as in Zap to the Past. I think we need to because
that's what I mean. Yes, absolutely, definitely, yeah.
It's going live next week.
Yes,
not next week, but when you hear this, not next week for us.
Yes, so
we're going forward in future.
So yes, do.
So it's been mentioned a few times to us. So we're going to be starting a Patreon. You can find that. Just go over to Patreon. We'll tweet it out. We'll put it out there. But it's probably just go to Patreon and search for Zap to the Past. You're going to find it. We are in the process of putting everything together and getting that all ready. So there will be extra stuff. There will be things like signing up for it. We'll get access to a Discord server where we can come and chat. There's another avenue to get hold of us and talk to us and all that kind of stuff, and talk with each other about favorite games or whatever. There's plenty of that going on. We're going to have special Patreon only stuff. What that will be is open to negotiation. We're not going to prescribe anything or say we're going to do this, but we will be doing like an Ask Us Anything each month. So if we get enough questions, that is, I suppose. If there's only one question, it won't be much point putting it out. But if we get enough of them, once we get enough of them, we'll be recording special Ask Us Anything. And within that as well, probably, if you want to actually give us what you thought of a game, if you think we were way off, tell us. It's fine. We don't care.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll tell you were wrong, but it's fine, because that's what it is. So all this stuff is coming down the line. So if you head over to Patreon, if you're interested in becoming part of, supporting us, and it is to support us. We're not going to be. I don't think we're going to be quitting our day jobs.
No.
But it's to help us keep this going. Server costs, website costs, all those kind of things. It just helps us keep producing what we'll keep producing, and anything we can get towards that is just a massive help, and we will massively appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I don't think you got anything to add to that. Or?
No, I think we produce a lot of content. There'll be obviously there'll be exclusive content in there, as well as loads of other things that you've mentioned. And look out for some key interviews and things like that. We're going to put in there as well when we go through.
Yes,
and,
yeah.
And the parameters of what you can select from will be on the Patreon. Go and look at that and explore that. Do you know what? We do this because I enjoy it. It's such good fun. And like you've rightly pointed out, this isn't a money-grabbing exercise or anything like that. This is just tokenistic. If you can chuck something in for us, it helps us with the server costs and those things. It's not like we're out there. We do this as well as our full-time jobs, and I wouldn't change that. It's such fun to do. But do remember that I have sleepless nights because of some of these crap games that we play. so it just helps with some of the therapy needed as well.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, I mean, I'm menaced in my twilight hours now by a robot stalking me with a flashlight.
Well, that's been happening for some time, and every time I hear a flapping sound at the window, I think that it's David Bowie trying to get in dressed as an owl to menace me with his bulge and his swirly balls. And that's not something I ever want the ghost of Bowie and his bulge is not something I want entering through my window or anything.
Here's a thought, just at the end of this, and just to go back to our last year's awards and our other Crapvert, which was Metabolis.
Mm-hmm.
So at the point when that owl changes into Bowie, at midpoint sort of thing, is Bowie Metabolis?
Yes, he could be at a certain point, because it doesn't happen quick, but
that thing had bulge. Metabolis had proper bird bulge.
Yes.
We spoke about it.
Well, maybe there's an inspiration there that when they thought about how are we going to change David Bowie, how are we going to change an owl into David Bowie, I'd like to see their tweens. Do you know, they're sort of in between stages?
Yeah.
So I'd like to see David Bowie's body with an owl head, but the bulge will remain. It will always be, that'll always be a panted owl. It's going to be owl top. It's going to transform owl downwards, I think. It's not going to be, I don't know. It's not going to be owl. It'd be owl to Bowie, not Bowie to owl. I think that makes sense. But.
So it'd be David Bowerly.
Ew. Yeah. Just
wrong.
If he doesn't change
that
fully,
sounded better in my head.
If he doesn't change fully at any point, you're going to be presented with Metabolis. That'll be what you're presented with, and at that point, what do you do then? I can kick him in the bulge and run for the hills. I think.
Yeah, Metabolowy.
All the is just 3 crystal balls just hit the ground. If you kick him in his bulge, that's where he keeps them. He keeps his crystal balls there.
And on that note, please support our Patreon.
Yeah. Yes, that's there.
But if you want more content like this nonsense, so I think that's it. That's it for 1986. Next week we launch full blown into 1987.
We do,
and see what joys, delights, terrors, and horrors it brings. So I think on that note, should we go?
I think that's time to call it quits for 1986.
I think it is. So I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to the Golden Breadbin Awards for 1986 from Zapped to the Past. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zap to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zapptothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. Bye. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapToThe, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.